Hey, my name's Loy Thurman. I'm running for Senate Seat D, which is both, evidently my microphone over here isn't working. Senate Seat D, which is for the House. You always have two, which is District 8 and 7, which is Big Lake, Meadow Lakes, all the way to Point McKenzie and back up to Settlers Bay. And that's 8. And then 7 is about a mile or so on either side of the lakes that go halfway from Wasilla over to Palmer. So that's the D as far as the Senate seat. So oh yeah, you can count on it. In fact, they've already got it labeled as North Anchorage. You know, they're already trying. Yeah, it's on the maps, and they're already trying to claim it as theirs. So, I think that would solve that problem. It gets you there in a hurry. So that's what was it? My dad flew down to Peru one time, and I said, "Well, where's the road going from from some place to the next?" And he said, "Just follow me. I'm running the D8 on the way." So.
The only thing is you'd have to cross over other people's property. It's all weird how it's all, what do you call it?
Yeah, yeah.
Or what do they call that? Subdivided, yeah.
Parcel out, subdivided.
Yeah. So, anyway, what is the binding caucus a big deal for you or not? Or what do your constituents say?
Oh, the binding caucus is the source of all of our problems. In fact, I was the very first senatorial candidate in this race to be able to bring up the problem of the binding caucus before any of the others have brought it up. The problem with that binding caucus is you're basically selling the votes of your constituents away, and they're not being represented because you're saying, I'm going to vote however a small group of people decide that they're going to vote on certain issues that you haven't even talked about or even thought about it. So you're looking at this maybe even a year or 2 years down the road that you're talking about. It's insanity. You sell it out so that basically you can get a chairmanship because you're going to vote at how dictator Giesel wants you to be able to vote. It's absolute insanity is what this stuff is. It doesn't make a lick of sense.
Any rumors out there on the chances of Roger Holland defeating Kathy?
Well, I was there at Christmas time whenever we had the Christmas gala, the Unity Gala, after they had stolen the people's PFD. Yeah, let's all come together after I've stolen your money and let's all have a good time here. So I was wearing my Santa uniform, and so we were out there, and Mr. Holland came through, and that's whenever he was considering running. And so he jumped on in the race. I think he's doing pretty good. We know that the other people from outside have supplied about $150,000 that they've came to be able to change how we're responding and how we're voting up here in Alaska by how they're going to pump the news media and everything else and try and tell everybody how everybody's bad. But
Do you think that's a poison pill to insert Murkowski, that she and her friends are dumping $150,000 into your race, Kirka race, Eastman's race?
Yeah.
Who am I missing here for a second? Anyways, these races out in the valley, Lisa Murkowski's trying to change the votes of valley residents. Man, I think that's a poison pill. Somebody not too smart thought about that.
Well, I'm thankful for him being able to put it out because maybe, seeing as how we have lost 4 chairmanships out here in the valley, four chairmanships that Giesel, the Weasel, stripped them of their power. Basically, the valley has no representation. They've stolen everything, and yet we're a major portion of contribution to the whole state as far as revenues.
The valley's the fastest growing area. Wasilla Valley,
Yeah.
They're fastest growing area in Alaska. I mean,
Yeah.
It's just, we were out home looking last year, and they're building beautiful homes out in the valley. And
Oh,
different
yeah.
sections of the neighborhoods and all. They're putting up new.
You bet.
construction.
You bet. Beautiful.
Going pretty well.
Right.
Are you still with me
Yes, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you great.
As far as Holland, yeah, I think Holland has a good chance. I think we're after they poured in about $100,000 against the people out here in the valley, that we're still short about $50,000, and I'm got in my back pocket or in back portions of my brain, I'm thinking that probably $50,000 going in there trying to hurt Holland against Giesel is what I'm just guessing.
Yeah, God, there's no doubt about it. I mean, they got to save these people. They got to try to resurrect their, give them some, heartbeat medicine, because they're on the emergency table.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, we need to put them on a respirator. I understand that kind of helps people to die. That's what I've heard.
Unfortunately, that's true. It's not even funny. It's just,
yeah, little macabre there. So that's.
What about the permanent fund dividend? That's a big topic, I'm sure, among your friends and
oh yeah, big time. I've been working over there with a guy named Mike Whitney on Save the PFD. People need to respond to him. Save the PFD. You need to go on .com and everything else and check that out, and Facebook as well. But I've been a supporter of that for a long time. It's wrong. We gave these mineral rights. My father was a independent oil producer down in East Texas, and I've been up here for 32 years. I used to fly for the military, for the Marine Corps. I flew for them and was an advanced jet instructor. And then also I flew for the airlines. And the portion is that concerning the mineral rights, we sold those to the oil companies. And when this thing, later on as they worked through this thing, the process was for the government to get half the money and for us to get half of those royalties that come off of the oil fields that we sold to the oil company. Well, as Hammond said, he says what they're going to do is they're going to spend their part. And then after they're through spending that part, then they're going to come back and they're going to try and steal your part of the PFD. And that's exactly where we are right now.
We're right on.
Absolutely.
After they spend their half, they're coming after your half.
Yep.
And that's exactly where they're at. And they think that, some people think that if we can just give up our dividend, then, taxes or all these other things going into the corpus, it'll never happen. Well, that's just a bunch of baloney, because I can look back into in 99 when the same type of thing happened. And what did they do? They promised if we give up our PFD, everything would be great. And the people of Alaska said no, but hell no, by 73%. Then, it happened again in 2006 with Murkowski. They said, the oil prices are tanking. Well, you just give us our dividend, everything will be great. And then the oil shot back up, and what they do, they just went right back to spending.
Yep.
Just like in the early 1999, again in 2006, and then in 2014 till today, we're still at it, threatening people that if you don't give up your dividend, we're going to have to, impose these draconian measures and budget cuts.
Oh, yeah.
The real problem is they never quit spending money.
Yeah.
They never quit doing what drives us into this ditch.
I was speaking the other night at the Chamber of Commerce out here at Wasilla, and I said, the problem is they've squandered, there's two different figures, $17 billion or $14 billion in the past 6 years that these politicians have absolutely squandered. We don't have a dam to show for it. We don't have anything. We don't have road structure. We don't have anything. And they have just blown. I mean, I don't even see how you can blow that much money. It's just incredible. But the problem is, I said, now there's no more reserve. They've used it all up. So this year, I'm going to hit the fire because and so what? Let's do a Swami thing here, like Johnny Carson used to do. Let me think. What are they? Where are they going to come up with $1.5 billion that we're already starting into this year? We're starting in $1.5 billion. So where are we going to come up with that? We're going to tax you. Well, Audrey, I forget her last name, who was the auditor we had from out of the state, she came in here and she told us how to do a lot of different things because she'd already analyzed a lot of other states, but nobody wanted to listen to what she had to say. But the portion is, if every money-making member of a household, if a husband and a wife is working, and each one of them would pay $10,000. Now, these were some of her figures. It's even higher now. But if they paid $10,000, so you wouldn't mind giving up $20,000 a year from your household, I'm certain. Well, anyhow, if everybody did that, the maximum amount of the people that we have, of the 750, thereabouts people in the state, you would only generate $500 to $600 million. So to simplify that, that's only a half of $1 billion. 500 to 600. You're only dealing with a half. We're already going into the shortfall of $1.5 billion. So we're going to tax you and it's going to solve the problem? No. The bottom line is there has to be some serious cuts. And until that comes, everybody's just smoking left-handed cigarettes. Tell us where
they can get a hold of you at. Tell us where people can respond to you at.
Okay. Check me out at Loy4Alaska.com, and that's spelled L-O-Y. It's not Lloyd or anything else. It's just Loy. Loy4, the number 4, spell out Alaska.com, or on a Facebook of Loy, the number 4, AK. And that's where you can see more information on me. I truly am conservative. I'm the best guy in this race. In fact, I even gave up my position as a chairman of District 8 just to be able to run this, because I said I do not like what's going on. And if we give these same if you put the same people back in office that have created this mess, thinking that they're going to solve the problem, then you need a head job because you're not thinking straight. They're.
Thank you so much. We've got to run.
You bet.
Roger Holland coming up next.
He's a good man.
It's Candidate Day, a friend of yours and mine. We'll be right back.
Thank you. Appreciate it. I didn't even get to tell him I'm Santa.
All right. Thank all of you guys out there that are in Facebook land that are tuned in right now. We really appreciate it. Don't forget to like and share. We are sitting here at the Windbreak Hotel, the Trout House in Wasilla, Alaska. I really do appreciate them allowing us to have this space and to be able to conduct these Meet the Candidate interviews. I'm sitting here today with Loy Thurman, Santa. He is running for Senate District D. You just heard an exclusive interview with Edie Burke Show and Loy here. And, I always like to start this out with a couple of really basic questions. First off, who are you? What is the district? Well, hold on. Give me a second here.
I'm ready to go.
Who are you? What district area are you running in? In other words, tell us all the geographic locations, because Senate District D just goes right over the top of my head. Yeah. And why are you running?
My name's Loy Thurman. I was the chairman of District 8. That District 8 is Meadow Lakes. We need to adjust.
We're good. No, we're good. I'm just making sure everything's turned on there.
8 is Meadow Lakes, Big Lake, all the way down to Point McKenzie, back up KGB to Settlers Bay, and then KGB all the way into Wasilla. Now that's 8. Huge area. Then 7 is the lakes, as they call it, Lucille, about 6 lakes that run all about halfway to Palmer. And it's take about a half a mile to a mile on either side, and it's just a diagonal strip that goes up through there. Senator seats take 2 districts, representatives cover 1 district, and that's the best way to put it. But they call this D as in Delta.
A large area that you cover there. A lot of foot traffic and drive time to get to it all.
It really is.
And how do you feel your campaign is going so far? I mean, this is one of those unusual years. We've got the pandemic. We're not where we're supposed to be social distancing. A lot of wary people about someone coming up and knocking on their door, asking them, hey, take a few minutes of your time, talk with me. How are you broaching or trying to get around the limitations that seem to be set for us this year?
I came into the campaign rather late. I came into the campaign because I really was disappointed in seeing what we had as an option. Dave Wilson is the present senator. In fact, 4 years ago, I voted for him. I asked him at the very beginning of that campaign, would he support the Republican candidate for president? And he talked, blah, 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 blah. And I said, will you support the Republican candidate for president? Blah, 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 blah. And the third time I said, will you support the Republican candidate for president? And he started in again, and I said, whoa, whoa, whoa. We'll just watch how you vote. Well, the problem is, we've seen how he's voted. He's voted for 4 bloated budgets over the past 4 years, and he's voted against the people being able to get your PFD. So if you don't mind being robbed of about $3,000 a year, and you're going to say, oh yeah, I want to give it for the cause, well, then evidently you don't need it, but there's a lot of people who do.
Well, I think you kind of gave a good segue into where we're at. I always bring up the binding caucus, or as anybody that follows me long enough knows, I call them the illegal binding caucus.
Absolutely.
And David Wilson at a candidate forum here about a month ago, he outright admitted he gave just like you were just describing there about showing support for President Trump. He gave the politician answer to the binding caucus.
Always.
And once I got done listening to that question that he was asked by one of his constituents on whether or not, a very straightforward question, would you join the binding caucus, yes or no? And he didn't, you saw that video. In fact, you were in the room when it was happened.
I was there.
And he gave the politician's answer to, the answer was he would rather be feasting at the table than getting scraps off to the side. And so without saying it outright, yes, he would, he admitted, which is, as you pointed out here a second ago, very obvious by his votes, that he would rather be inside of the binding caucus selling out his constituents' votes and voices.
Feasting at the table.
Feasting at the table.
Right.
That is exactly it. So where do you, brings up the big question, where do you stand with our illegal binding caucus that we have?
I was the first senatorial candidate in this campaign to bring up the issue concerning the problem with the binding caucus. The binding caucus is the problem to all of our problems here. It relates back to Senate Bill 91. You're voting for stuff, you're giving away your vote for the people who you represent, for them to be able to have a say. You're binding yourself to this binding caucus. I don't know exactly how it's determined, but basically you're saying, I will vote, however, a very small group of people, and I'm talking about small. If it was everybody having a say-so, then that would be a different ballgame. You have that in Washington, D.C. and other places. But the problem is you have a tiny group, and everybody else has to vote according to what this small group says. I mean, that's a dictatorship. That's socialism, communism, however you want to put it. It's why everything is so screwed up. It's why they all vote for the budget and everything else, because they want to reserve and to keep their chairmanships, which are selling your vote out, so that they can have a say-so as the chairman, saying what will come to the vote, what won't. They can sit on it, and they can say, nope, this isn't going to come to the top. We're going to sit right here on it, and I'm not even going to listen to that. So basically, they are miniature Napoleons over their committees, of which Dave Wilson is the chairman of the Health and Social Services, which are the 2 largest. I mean, the charts just literally go off the page. Those are the 2, education and health and human services, and he's sitting on that.
So let's dig a little deeper here. I know that he is just like you're describing. You've got the binding caucus, the illegal binding caucus.
Of which he's part of.
Which he is part of. And you sit there and you watch the gavel to gavel, because I'm not one of those rich people that can afford to fly to Juneau and spend $150 a night just for a hotel room and sit there inside of their just to kick back and watch what's going on inside and not be able to open my mouth, which is why I always try to live stream it off of my TV for everybody out there.
Cool.
And but you get down to like the state and capital budget that they passed this past year. They go, and we had the Senate who said they graciously are going to give us back $1,000 of our stimulus stolen from us of the $1,304 they stolen last year.
My heart's fluttering.
And out of the goodness of their heart, they're going to give us a permanent fund dividend. Out of the $3,010 that they owe us, or $2,910, depending on whose numbers you like to use,
Right.
we're going to give you $1,000 of that. Which again, they broke their promise when they paid us.
Thank you so much.
Exactly. Senator Natasha von Imhoff on the floor once she realized that the $1,000 stimulus and $1,000 PFD was passed. She's immediately calling for another vote, another amendment to remove that approval of the stimulus and that meager $1,000 that they had given us.
Pennies.
And then guess what? It passes. Now the House and the Senate in a joint committee meeting sit down with the final bills. The House's version and the Senate's version. You got Senator Natasha von Imhoff sitting in the room. You got David Wilson sitting in that room. Guess what comes out of the final bill? We all know the results because we're living it right now. $1,000 permanent fund dividend, and the stimulus gets stripped back out. Right. David Wilson, who has over and over again claimed that he is there to protect our PFD. Right. He stands firmly by it. Look at my voting record on how many times I have worked to get you your PFD. But when he finally gets a bill in front of him that has all the bargaining power in the world, what does he do? He sells out his constituents.
He sells us out every time.
And
with Showers, he did co-sponsor a bill for us to be able to get our PFD. But being the consummate politician that he is, he says, oh yes, I'm for you getting your PFD. But then when it comes to the money and the vote that really counts of you getting it, then he votes it down. Because in the budget, you're toast. And that's what exactly, that way he can say, but I voted for you. I care about you so much. And he's a nice guy. I voted for him.
Well, do you remember what he said at the end of his candidate forum, the one where he admitted that he was going to be in the binding caucus? When he said who he is beholding to?
Go ahead.
God and his constituents.
Right.
Well, I'm beginning to wonder if Senator Kathy Giessel and that little clique that's going on there is who he considers to be God.
Maybe his little G. Right.
That's kind of I'm a very religious person, yeah. So I am far from ever wanting to diminish the message that is out there, right, or the believers out there, but when you got somebody that openly admits that he wants to feast at the table instead of getting the scraps, and says he only answers to God and his constituents, well, if he's feasting at the table, that really brings to question who he considers to be that person.
What's that table? That's an evil table.
It is.
It's an evil table that is stealing the people's money. Is exactly what it is.
Is that a reference to the Last Supper? I mean, I'm just stepping right on out there.
Yeah. I'm not sure if Lucifer's sitting there or whatever else. I mean, this is pretty crazy. No, it's a mess. A consummate politician always votes two. Excuse me. Nice gnat there. I enjoyed it. They always vote for something when it's not important. We were just talking about other politicians that they'll vote one way because they know the ultimate outcome is not going to matter. That like with David, of course he could co-sponsor that bill with Showers because he knew good and well it was not going to pass. So therefore, I'm really looking after the people. I really care about you. But
I didn't even get a hearing on the floor. No. It went no more than the press briefing they gave, and then it went silent because they buried it as fast as they could.
Next. So what good does it do to try and be there for something all it is posturing. That's all it is, to look good.
The dog and pony show.
It is. That's what it all comes to.
So you brought it up here just a little bit ago, the biggest monkeys that we have in the room. We've got our education system, K through 12, early learning, the University of Alaska.
Wow.
our politicians out there always like to claim this is the largest expense that we have out there. Well, if you combine, they're still not the largest expense. You got the Department of Health and Social Services.
Absolutely.
David Wilson, champion of health and social services, he says so and every time he's out there talking how he's making sure that those things are his top priorities, made claims that he's cut the budget, cut the cost of what it costs to be able to do that on a daily basis. And then we get out there, and I'm just going to give you a couple of comparisons here. Mm-hmm. Back in 2018, we were spending roughly $2.47 billion or $2.5 billion, just to give us some good, nice, easy numbers to work with. And then here, just this past year, 2019, we spent $3.6 billion. If you do the math, that's a $1.2 billion increase in just 2 short years. Yet we keep hearing how these certain legislators out there, and I'm just not going to nail the one. I'm going to say all of them that have voted for this.
We've cut to the bone.
We've cut to the bone, but we've increased it by $1.2 billion. That's.
I tell you, if it weren't so serious, it really would be a laughing matter. But the problem is they're spending our money. That's the problem. They're spending our money, and they're wanting to run us into bankruptcy. It's nuts.
It's getting worse.
And he sits as a chairman on one of the 2 largest expenditures that we have: education, as we said before, and health and social services. And they just keep increasing more and more. And yet they'll say, well, we've cut this or we've cut that. Well, then how does that? Again, when you look at the figures, they're just straight up lying to you. They're straight up lying to you, and it gets so frustrating because the chairman position, as I think I communicated once before, is they can sit on bills that come up and they will never see the light of day.
Especially the ones that have cuts in them.
Yeah. Those just never come to the surface. Gee, I wonder why. Because the chairman sat on it and would not let it come up. So for him to say that, I've done things, he's had 4 years. Now, you can make all the promises that you want into the future here, but it doesn't make any difference. You've had 4 years to perform, and he hasn't. All he's done is join himself with Giesel and that binding caucus, which it's a damnable thing. It's destroying our whole state, and it's been there for years. But there's no other state in the union that has one of these crazy things like we have here in Alaska.
We'll take that one step further. There's no state in the 52, including Guam and Puerto Rico in that number, that have a binding caucus. There's 51 other places that do not have it, and Alaska is number 52 or number 1 as being the only place that has a binding caucus in it.
It's crazy. It's the same thing as Pelosi said in her quotable quote. We have to vote for it so we can see what's in the bill. This is saying, I promise that I'm going to be a loyalist to the president of the Senate, and no matter whatever say, that we're all going to jump off the side of the cliff. Hey, we're all in this together. I mean, it's
lemmings do stupid things, don't they?
They really do, and in herds. And I think it's really a herd mentality when you get to Juneau. I think it just goes crazy down there.
I remember it was maybe less than a month into Senator Shower's first days in the Senate when he got appointed by the governor to go there.
Uh-huh.
And he's there in office, and the swamp got a hold of him right off the bat. And it was his very, very first vote. And, of course, it was on the PFD issues that was going on there. Yeah. And they whispered him into his ear, you have to vote this way because this is the way we're supposed to vote on this. This is before he found out who the swamp was. The same swamp that he is now on a daily basis out there rallying and fighting against.
Yep.
And I'll never forget that vote because I was sitting there jaw dropped, hearing and seeing on the TV the vote that just happened, going, oh my God. And then whether you believe it or not, I'm watching Senator Shower's head swing down towards his phone. And the look on his face basically says it all. People caught it, and they heard what had happened. And After that, he was like, oh, wait a minute. I don't listen to people anymore. I'm now going to listen to my constituents because his constituents got after him. Same things happened to the David Wilson. His constituents have gone after him. Time and time again. My door is open. Call me. He will.
I hear that over and over.
He will accept your call. He will talk to you, and just like you were describing earlier, run full circle.
Talking here? Yeah, I can hear you.
And keep having a conversation with you that it's what he thinks, and which if I pick up the telephone, I'll be honest with you, I don't care what you think. I really don't. I don't care what he thinks. I don't care what you think. I want you to care about what I think about. I want you to care about what everybody else that lives where you represent thinks about. Because you're not there, are you, to do what you want?
The bottom line is, when you go to Juneau, if the people of Alaska and here in the Valley voted for me and put me in, I am a public servant. When I go down there, I'm to represent you. Not special interest groups, not the Republican Party, not anything else. I'm to represent you and your best interests. That's the only reason why I'm there. And also, I believe in term limits. See these things here? I believe in term limits. I'm not a professional, long-term, lifetime politician. I'm here to represent the people. And if you like me and what you're doing, you get on the phone and you start calling up 5 of your buddies and get them on the phone and say, check out this dude, because we've only got about 5 more days before the vote. So, I mean, it's time to get serious, folks. I know I'm a latecomer coming into this race, but I came into it because I did not like what I saw for the state of Alaska. I did not, for your children, for your grandchildren. They're going to destroy this state if you let them get away with stealing your PFD, and that's exactly where they're going to go for. I mean, there's no more in the reserve. We've already gone over this once. There's no more in the reserve. So what are they going to go? Let's think about this real hard.
And by reserve, you're talking about their CBR, the Constitutional Budget Reserve that they set back up in the early 90s, that technically, or 2000, excuse me, the early 2000s, that was technically supposed to be their version of our permanent fund dividend that they used to build up and spend when they needed it.
Yeah, and to be paid back.
Yes, and it's supposed to be paid back.
Yeah, but we hadn't even got to that point. And you know good and well, what are they going to pay it back with?
Well, shoot, they're trying to pass bills right now to dissolve it completely so that they won't have to pay back their statutory obligation of the laws that they pass. Another law they're breaking.
The laws that we pass, we're going to pass other laws which then supersede those. That means that those laws don't matter at all. I mean, what is this? It's people coming in and saying, I'm going to rob you, and then I'm going to be a politician and say that it's okay to rob people. And that's exactly what they're doing. They're thieves and they're stealing your money. And you need to get irritated. You need to get mad about it, because they're literally, would you allow a thief to come into your home and steal $3,000 a year out of your pocket? That's literally what's going on. They're stealing your money. And tell me,
I just walked into your house. I'm taking your TV. I'm taking your bed. I'm taking the fan that you use to keep yourself cool during the summer, and the one that you use to push the heat around the house during the winter for the fireplace.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm going to make sure you suffer. Yeah. And guess what? You're going to willingly let me come into your home and do this.
Oh, please, would you please? Oh, please help me out. Because I don't have the brains to figure out how to be able to budget my home, but I can trust you to go to Juneau and spend my money really wisely.
So what would you do? Because Department of Health Services, like I just said, $3.6 billion last year. They budget out $3.2 billion is for this year. And when I give out totals, I'm not giving out their funky little UGF total that they want to tote out there that's at, as they claimed that when they passed everything, $5.9 billion after the governor's vetoes, which Senator Shower just came out and shown that it's actually at $5.2 billion after what they had increased it to the $5.5 billion that's going to be in January. And yes, it's going to increase by another $300 million, because name me 1 year since Walker passed his unilateral health care for the state of Alaska that we have not had $100 million to a $300 million supplemental that has had to been added into our budget at the end of the year because of that.
One of the things I think about here, when I was in the Marine Corps, one of my jobs, one of my collateral jobs that I had to do was called MERS 4-STAT. And it's basically the military readiness of your squadron that you have. I was in aviation in the Marine Corps. And part of that is your military readiness. You only answer directly to the CO, you don't answer to anybody else. And one of the things that I learned was that numbers can lie. And I thought, no, numbers can't lie. And I would learn through that process of how you make numbers lie. It's whenever you use a different measuring stick on different things. And you think you're dealing with only one measuring stick, but you're not. The Clintons did this with how they were saying, how they put money, Slick Willie, of how we're putting money back in. We didn't spend it all. No, what you did was you cut out major expenditures, and your measuring stick was a whole lot smaller than what it was before. In this situation here, we're being lied to all the time. And
I see it when I went to my last doctor's appointment.
Yep.
I went in there and I'm out of pocket pay.
Yep.
I don't have no insurance, can't afford it.
Right.
I make just enough. I make just enough money to where I don't qualify for all of their reduction programs that they have and everything else to get it for free. And what they want on a monthly basis for me to be able to pay this is more than I pay for a house payment, which is just absolutely outrageous.
Crazy.
So I go in and I ask them, how much is my doctor's bill supposed to be? Before I get in there, I'd like to be able to know how much I need to have in the bank to be able to pay for this.
Exactly.
Oh, well, this is what we are per hour. I'm going, okay, that's nice.
Yeah.
And these are the tests that I need to have done. What's this going to cost me? Well, I don't know that until after we get done running all of the tests.
Cool.
So how much is my doctor's appointment going to be? Well, we don't know that until after you get done with your actual doctor's appointment. Mm-hmm. So I go, I'm walking into there going, so you gave me your hourly amount, which is we'll just say $100. And how much are these tests supposed to be? $50, $100? We'll just pretend I'm going to be outrageous here, and in my own mind, shame on me, I'm thinking $100 for my medical test at the worst case scenario.
That's cheap. That's cheap.
Well, I got just basic ones to run. Stuff that they do on a daily basis for millions and millions of Americans every day. And so I go in and then they won't tell me how much it is. They won't tell me how much it is. They just give me, say, these two things. They say they won't even give me an estimate for my, like I said, for what, $300.
Wow.
And I'm going, my jaw drops and everything else, and I'm looking for the breakdown between what the tests were and what the actual doctor's hourly rate was.
Right.
It's not on the bill.
Right. No.
They were combined. And I'm going, well, how in the world are we supposed to have transparency medical if you can't even give me an estimate on what it is up front?
Here,
But by law,
let me give you a bill right here.
well, you're going back in, you're going to be in Senate. And the reason why I go through this long spew about what I had to pay is we've got a statute that's on the books that they're supposed to be transparent for how much they're spending.
And yet, if you send this to the government through Medicare, Medicaid, whatever, the bill will be this. But if you're going to pay in cash, okay, it'll be $30 on the 100. So it's, if you're going to pay me cash, well, then okay.
Yep, they offered me the sliding scale and everything, but just like with everything else I have out there in this world, I just don't make enough, or I make just too much.
Yeah, but otherwise, if it's going to be for the government and everything else, then you're talking about 2 or 3 times as much right there.
Exactly.
So
yeah, that $300 bill would have probably been $1,800 for that same visit if I was on health care.
I wouldn't be surprised. One of the things that could be, just right off the cuff that could be done was they've taken the native health care onto the burden of the state having to pay these. And the natives already have their monies. They already have their situation set up. So we should be able to say, no, the natives already have theirs, and we shouldn't have to be paying that upon our bills that we're having to pay. And yet the state has said, oh, we'll pay those. Well, this doesn't make a lick of sense because they are already provided for.
I've been confused about that myself. Here we are in Alaska. They get the federal government gives free health care up to a certain limit to our Alaska Native population.
Right.
This is the same for nationally with our indigenous population of any Native tribes that we have in the United States.
Sure.
My own child is one of them, not of Alaska, but she's a Native American. And excuse my offense there, Native American Indian. And she gets the benefits through tribal and everything else. And since the day she was born, the first thing they ask me when I walk in the door is what's her Medicaid number? They never ask me what tribe she's with, other than, the paperwork that got filed with them up beginning. They don't care. They want to know, is she on Medicaid or not? Or do you have personal insurance?
Yeah.
And I'm going, now wait a minute, I'm really confused here.
Why isn't that Native care?
Where's my Native care? My child has legal rights, God-given rights by our United States of America, that her health care is supposed to be covered. And they want everything else but that.
Yeah, crazy. It's just, that is just one area. But if you took that expense, that alone would be huge. I mean, that gets into a whole lot of things. And of course, what do they say? Excuses are kind of like something else. Everybody's got one.
It sure does stink.
And the problem is all I hear out of Dave Wilson is all kinds of excuses. But why aren't there cuts? Why aren't you doing? And plus, while we're talking about that, let's see. Do I have it here?
Well, I'll throw something out there, Governor.
I just happen to have down here from APOC, his donors. Here's $1,000 from the donors of optometry. ConocoPhillips is here for $500. We have Dennis of Alaska Political Action. There's another $1,000 here, and I also know several of the doctors that have donated $500, which is $500 is a maximum in the calendar year from January to December the 31st. That's a maximum you can give. But of course, the $1,000 are from political action committees and stuff, and from several different ones, and also from the State Health and Nursing Home Association. There's $1,000 there. By the way, Jesse Sumner's in here donating $500. December, what was that? December the 30th, I believe. Just under the nose, and now here he is with another $500 down here, August the 11th. So,
wow.
And the list goes on, and we're talking about. I could talk.
August? You mean August 11th of this year?
Yeah.
I mean that was 2 days ago.
Yes, yeah.
Well, my big question is hold on a second. Where did he get this $500 from? Didn't he just get $20,000 and some change from the National Committee, the Republican National Committee?
Gee, what? Yeah, it's coming out of his heart.
Out of the generosity of his heart, yeah.
He paid this on 7/26, but it was posted on 8/11. So the very end of July, the 26th. Yeah.
So the Alaska Swamp is working very hard to get the Alaska Swamp elected. And anybody that has conservative values, here's the shaft. We want to make you disappear.
You people that want your PFD, forget it, because we need the swamp back in. They're threatened just a little bit, and by gosh, the money's flowing from the south, from the lower 48, trying to influence the election and which way it's going to go here in the valley. It's pathetic. What was that? $150,000.
$150,000, and $100,000 of it is accountable for, and I still haven't figured out where the other $50,000 has gone quite yet.
$100,000 for the valley.
Well, altogether that I'm aware of, $20,000. Some of it and some change was out to someone that was going against Cog Hill. Cog Hill is who got the benefactor of that money, and Robert Meyer is the one who was the one being given the shaft because he's too conservative for the Republican Party.
People wake up, and start getting active. Start doing things. Like I shared before, if you like what you see of me here, contact 5 people and then stay on them. Call them the next day and say, have you got your 5? Did you like this dude? And call them up, and then call them up the third day. Have you got them out? Have you got your 5? Because we can take this whole thing back locally and also nationally if we would start getting involved. I hear from so many people You know, but I'm only one person. I'm not only one vote, and my vote doesn't really mean anything.
We've lost elections by one vote.
By one vote. I mean,
one vote.
Yeah, crazy. But
I mean, Bryce. I'll throw it out there. Bryce Edgman, 2006. He didn't win by a vote. He won by a coin flip, heads or tails.
Yeah.
But your one vote doesn't matter.
Yeah, it does. And if you would start contact those 5 people, and if those 5 would then contact their 5, that would be 25. The next step would be 125, then 625, and only 5 generations down, you're talking about 3,125 people that your vote has changed just by you being diligent and then following up with those people saying, have you got your 5? And that's the key to it all, following up and saying, have you got your 5? And that way you can have influence. Your vote can have an influence of over 3,000 if you're persistent. If you're following up on your 5. I call it 5 by 5.
And here we are entering into the primaries. We've got a 17 to 20% voter turnout every single year.
That much?
Yeah, that much, yeah.
That's 17%.
17% of the population, and it really depends on what election year it is, too. With the presidential year like this one always brings out more people.
You think we'll get 18%?
But during the primaries, usually not. I mean, I'll be shocked. 17 is the more of the standard normal.
The general election.
Yeah.
The big Humpty Hump.
Oh, the general election, we're going to, if we go in the Trump year, it was over 20%.
Whoa,
yes,
20%.
Yes. This is going to be another year that's going to be over 20%.
1 out of 5, huh?
Yes.
Whoa, 20%. Wow.
And but I work the job that I do that's not doing this, the one that I actually make a living at,
right.
and that I'm not, as you were just saying a second ago, one person can't make a difference. Well, guess what? I'm one person.
Yeah,
I've been making a huge difference out there.
Sure.
I do it on a daily basis, and it doesn't cost me a dime.
And it's building.
Building.
Yeah.
And I say it doesn't cost me a dime. I'm lying.
Yeah,
it's cost me
out of your pocket,
out of my own pocket to get the gas to get somewhere and things like that. That's the reason why I finally started taking donations, because I want to do more. But I can't afford to do more.
and you can do more, because each one of you could put a 10 out there or a 20. I mean, that's not going to bankrupt you. You know, I could use it for my campaign.
Exactly.
Go to loy4alaska.com, and there's donate buttons right there. You know, I think you could spring for a 20. I really do. I don't know that many people that can't. There are some who can't, but there's some people who can spring for 100. There's some people who can spring for even more. But if you don't do something, you got to do something.
You get 1,000 people donates a $5. There's $5,000 worth of advertising right there that you can get. More people you can reach.
Yeah, I would love to be able to reach out here at the last second to try and get the news concerning how Dave Wilson is stealing your PFD and not representing you. But I don't have that monies to be able to push it. So, you know, what can you do? You do what you can. And you hope that people will finally begin to understand you can't sit on your duff and bitch about stuff. You got to get off your butt and you got to do something, you know?
Well,
my favorite picture that I used to have before my place burnt, but anyhow, it was 2 buzzards sitting out there on the desert, and the skull down there and everything else, and a rattlesnake wiggling out there he's even panting because it's so hot he can't stand it. And one buzzard turns to the other buzzard. He says, patience, my ass. He said, I'm going to go kill something. So the point was, get up and do something, because by you saying something, we are the government here in America. You've got to understand that.
They work for us.
They work for us, and not them. We're not here as their peons or as their peasants. You know.
I'll put it out there: one day a year.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
You showed the true meaning of what it means to give to it's not what you get out of it.
Right.
It's what the people out there that believe and want to believe and hope happens. Santa.
Here you are. Yeah,
you're the true meaning of a servant of America, let alone
some people have said, well, this is an angry Santa. Well, yeah, you bet I'm angry. You know why I'm angry? I'm angry because these politicians down there in Juneau are giving away your money for the PFD so that all of a sudden these little kiddies can't get their Christmas because they're being robbed by politicians out of Juneau. That makes me angry because it's killing our economy, it's killing our state, they're robbing it from us, and it should make you angry. You should say, I'm going to do something. Get up off your butt and do something. You know, join an action group. Join Save the PFD. Look it up on the web. You know, I may have flown with airplanes that had computers on them in the airplane and all over the globe that I flew. I never got into PCs that much, but I'm being forced into it now. But the problem is, you already know a whole bunch of this stuff. Get out there and do something. Contact. Save the PFD. Get involved with political. Call me. My number is 892-2244. So give me a buzz. Look at my website. I've already given it to you. So yeah, check it out.
Got to get involved. I mean, as I was bringing up about the type of work that I do, the reason why I was really bringing it up is because of the type of people or the age group of the people that I interact with on a daily basis.
Right.
These are young people. These are people that are 18 to the age of 25. I walk into a room, there'll be 10 of them all together there in the different environments, anywhere from a couple to up to 10 to 15 people, and they're all young, very, very young. One of my biggest questions I always ask them is
going like this?
Yeah, exactly.
Were you talking to me?
I'm doing the same thing there. I'm really guilty of it myself.
One of the questions you asked.
I'm one of the few that actually knows how to multitask while doing it. I can hold a conversation with you and type at the same time. So I always ask them, are you ready to go out and vote? And I get this
blank look.
Like, vote? What are we voting on now? And I'm looking at them and I go, you do know that we have elections coming up. People are going to be sitting in Juneau and making decisions that's going to affect you. So are you going out and voting? Oh, well, what day is that? And then, I give them the day and then they ask the next stupid question, well, what are we voting on? And then they ask me, who are you voting for? And I go, well, what district do you live in? Or where do you live? What part of town, And they'll tell me the part of town, and I'll start spitting off
who their representatives are.
Who the ones that they should be voting for, And, well, how do you know all of this stuff? And I'm going, I've been in here 20 or some times now. We talk about this every single time I come into the room. And they just don't care. The youth today are expected, they got this blind faith that the older generations, those people that are over the age of 30 and up, and I hate to call 30 old, but the true voting age doesn't really start until the age of 35 and up. When you look at the numbers, it's not the younger generations that are out there, unless you're looking at the Democrat Party.
Boy, that's a different ball game. They recruit them.
Democrats
drink that Kool-Aid. I mean, boy, they drink that Kool-Aid. Are we going to have another stimulus package? I'm here. I'm ready.
Well, we got Republicans that are out there that are not embracing the younger generation. I was sitting inside of a meeting the other day, and these are the District 8 that you step down from, and I go walking in there, and I'm looking at all the faces of everybody that's sitting around the room. I'll see two young faces, and everybody else there has got white whiskers and losing their hair, and grannies with their walkers walking in and everything else. I'm kind of exaggerating here, but
I like it.
That's basically what you're walking into. And these old timers don't want to give up the power. They don't want to teach the younger generation. A young person walks in, they're instantly, who are you? Why are you here? You're a little too young to be inside of this room. You got to be a Democrat in sheep's clothing because you're in this room.
You're spying us out.
Yes. And but the younger generation, I know so many conservatives out there. It's unreal. They do it. Yes, folks, they are not unicorns. They do exist. The Candace Owens is since the first day I ever seen her, she's been my hero.
Good girl.
And I wish we could get more youth like her. Just younger people to get up and start speaking their minds. Start working towards opening up people to realize what direction our country is going into.
Right. We're on we're on a death spiral. If you don't wake up and really start doing something, it's going to be too late. I watch football games, and it comes down to the end, and we'll do something. We've got a minute left on the clock, and you say, why weren't you this urgent about 7 minutes ago into the ball game? In the fourth quarter, we're down to the last. Either the socialists and the communists are going to take this country over, which they are so far down. You need to go on the list of what they do to be able to take over our country. They are all but done, and that's the reason why they're so mad right now, because Trump got in and they're torqued because they thought it was a slam dunk with Hillary, and we were toast. It was all over.
Yeah, they had been setting us up during Obama's term as the downward slide. I mean, more Americans sitting there on welfare, more people receiving food stamps and getting themselves free health care now. And
now they've done it with this virus and got everybody terrified. Yes, it is out there, but it's no more than people die every day. I hate to inform you, but people die every day.
Kamala Harris and Biden came out on the floor yesterday, gave their opening remarks as a brand new candidate pair.
Oh, yeah.
And guess what? Kamala Harris is sitting there going, President Trump is the worst president in the world because he put so many people out of work. Look at how our country is suffering right now under his rulership. Wait a minute. We're in the middle of a coronavirus pandemic that you Democrats, Nancy Pelosi was going into Chinatown saying, look how wonderful these people are. And I'm not dishing the people. The people are wonderful that she went and visited. But her point was look how safe this virus is.
Yeah.
There's nothing to worry about. Now the Democrats are all out there saying, and calling
horrible.
Oh, you banned China from being able to come into the country.
How horrible of you.
At the very beginning, how horrible of you, you racist person you are.
Yes. That you're keeping the flu from coming over here to infect the Americans. How horrible of you, Trump, to be able to do this.
And now here we are 5 months later, 6 months later, and they've got the exact opposite story. Trump didn't do enough. Back then he was racist for trying to do something. Now he's not doing enough.
Absolutely.
His booming economy, the best we've seen in 50 years.
Oh, beyond imagination.
And now look at how he's destroyed our economy. Wait a minute, I didn't realize that did he create
Bill
this disease?
Gates and Fauci have done more to destroy our economy than anybody else, of which they were the ones that promoted this on the research on it through Gates and Fauci. Of course, he's been profiting from this thing of vaccinations for many years. He's been doing it, and what's he saying? Oh, we've got to hold off till we get a vaccine. We've got to hold off till we get a vaccine because you know what? Gates and the others know they're going to make billions and billions off it because they created the darn thing in the first place. Down in North Carolina, then shipped back up to a professor at Harvard who had his own people that were on China over there. I believe he was a lieutenant, was what he was, on his staff, and other Chinese that were there, who then took the stuff over there to Wuhan. And of course, then they developed it even further.
And then Obama gave like $14 billion or something like that for them to research the Wuhan virus in 2014.
And the guy at Harvard there was making millions off of setting up their labs over in Wuhan.
Yep.
I mean, there are trails, but you can't listen to the mainstream media because you're sure not going to hear it there.
As I always like to say, I love giving a good conspiracy theory because odds are, in the end, most of the time, if you've got legitimate people that are telling you this stuff, it's the truth.
Yeah.
Kind of like Obama spied on candidate Trump.
Oh, this is fallacy.
This is all fake news.
Oh, this is fake news. This is more theories. Oh, this can't be. No, and then all of a sudden, trickle.
All it comes out.
And they say, well, maybe there was a possibility. No.
I mean, I've always loved, like I said, I love a good conspiracy theory. Here, I'll throw one out there. President Trump's got the best economy that we've ever seen in over 50 years. Has the lowest unemployment record ever on record for every demographic except for one. And as he always likes to say, I apologize, women. I'm still trying to make that one happen for you. But Latinos, blacks, Mexicans, you name it,
All
and
to the top.
any ethnicity out there that you can think of, lowest unemployment that you've ever seen. A market that can't be a bull market that's doing nothing but breaking records month after month after month. China on the ropes. They are powering. They've got the lowest GDP they have ever seen in decades because the tariff war, the United States is stomping them into the ground. They're losing it.
Yep.
Businesses, manufacturers, all moving back into the country again after fleeing.
Trump's bringing them back in.
And well, how do we stop this Wuhan virus?
Wuhan. Oh,
So here's the virus.
We'll create a total epidemic, and we'll shut the whole economy in and terrify everybody.
So now we'll give it another twist to this conspiracy theory. President Trump does everything. He gets the factories here now creating the respiratory masks and all the stuff that are needed out there for the front lines to be able to combat this virus. He's got it 100% under control. Manufacturers producing things at record pace numbers to the point the United States is now covered, and we're now shipping this stuff to foreign countries so that they have them too. President Trump is just tackling the problem almost as if it never even existed. Democrats in America and the far left, they begin to panic again. They're going, oh my God. We can't have this happen. The economy's now starting to open up. Businesses are now starting to get their doors open again. We got to do something that completely makes this pandemic seem like it's just child's game.
Right.
In walks George Floyd.
Right. This isn't work. I saw a cartoon of someone in Shoros up here, and he's sitting back at his desk, and he was saying, well, the pandemic on COVID-19 isn't working so well. So he said, call up Antifa. And we'll create something here going on. Go ahead.
Here comes George Floyd. They show him peacefully sitting against the wall, and then they show him with a knee on his neck, and the 10 minutes that are in between that sitting against the wall and the knee on the neck has been cut. Judges, riots in the streets, looting's now going on. We've got this big major catastrophe happening that's taken over the coronavirus. You don't hear nothing about it now at this point.
No.
And like I said, the economy was just starting to get back roaring again. And so here we've now shut everything back down because of all the riots and everything else that is going on. Judge refuses to release the body cam footage to show you about the missing 10 minutes that's there. Things are getting worse. We've got Portland, we've got D.C., we've got...
But that's okay for them to be there in their close proximity for them to create their riots. But everybody, you going to church? Oh no, we're going to haul you off. Or your little business, we're going to haul you off to jail because
our own Mayor Berkowitz showing up.
Yes,
I can be at the Black Lives Matter protest and be there and give speeches and everything else, but those folks this past week sitting at the Lusac Library exercising their right to protest when there's tyranny and dictatorship going on. Oh my God. You guys are not allowed to assemble. We're going to call the APD on you, and they did. I always thought that was funny when the APD came by. They did one drive-by, and that was just to let people to know that we're standing in the middle aisle out there in the middle of the road, that they needed to get off on either the side of the sidewalks. And they said once they got that done, the police never showed back up again.
We're done.
Exactly. They showed up later on that night, though, when the mayor and their assembly there declared us a riot outside.
Was there a riot out there?
Well, at that point there was about 30 people left.
They were claiming that?
It was about 10 o'clock at night. They're still out there protesting.
Boy, that's hardcore to be out there at 10 o'clock at night.
We're all standing out there. They've got a couple of vehicles right where the book drop-off is. They got them parked right up in front of the doors there, and they're just laying on their horns, making sure those assembly and mayor know that we're still
here.
out here.
We're here.
And so the APD came by and says, well, you can't do that. I see that you guys are not a riot, that you are peacefully protesting, but we need to keep this drive open. And us being the law-abiding citizens that we are, we listened. And
got off the horn.
So 10 of them kept doing a circle, just kept driving around in circles. If we can't park there and just stay there, we're just going to drive around in circles still, blow their horns. And I like to say we because I'm there live streaming everything that's going on. So then APD shows up again. If you looked at the write-up that Channel 11 put out there today on this, Channel 11 says, well, APD was called out twice, and the second time was for noise ordinance because it was past 11 o'clock at night. And APD just said that you guys need to stop playing on the horns. So by the time we were able to tell the basically the 10 vehicles that were going around in the circle, it's a few minutes past 11, and it's the APD is now heading back on out of there. Well, Channel 11 writes it up as is. Well, they pretty much listened and quit laying on their horns, except for a few. And I'm going, no, it just took a little bit because they were on all sides of the building to let them all know that we were told that we got to keep the peace and keep the noise down. So that was the two APD incidences.
In your riots that you had, the peaceful riots or demonstrations you had, there was no breaking of glass, destroying or burning of vehicles. Nothing like this going on?
We didn't spray paint any police cars.
Really? No police officers injured?
No broken windows. No police officers injured. None of them blinded for life. No people out there protesting in riot gear. None of them had helmets on or baseball bats or anything else that you may have considered. No Molotov cocktails.
Wow.
I mean, the worst offense that I think might have been considered out there is one person stopped right in front of the mayor as he was doing his walk of shame, and they did a chest bump, and then he got bumped again off to the side. And then we had one person that laid down in front of his vehicle so that he couldn't just pull right on out of the parking lot. And our rock star assembly member, Jamie Allard, she helped keep things a lot more calmer, and asked the person laying down, we Alaskans are better than this. We don't need to stoop to the level of the far left and take it too far.
Right.
So instead of just staying there laying, they immediately got up and moved. It was a very peaceful protest.
Right.
But here we are.
It was civil disobedience.
But where's your mask? You guys are breaking the law. You got more than 25 people out there. You have 30 people out there at 11 o'clock at night. It was funny when they said they called the police on us when we had 500 to 1,000 out there. That's the other joke.
They missed a few people?
KTVA did miss a few people. They quoted that there was only about 200 people that had showed up out there. Anybody that watches the video that I made knows there was closer to around 500. We had, all told, I would say maybe 1,000 people throughout the entire time in the beginning.
Wow.
That filtered in and out.
Wow.
Those that got off, those that were lucky enough to be there at 4:30, that were able to get off of their jobs,
right,
and show up and to be there. And then as it got past closer to 5:30, that crowd kept growing. By 6:30, it started to shrink back down again. Of course, KTVA, Channel 2, ADN, they don't want those numbers too large.
No.
So about 200 people.
Yeah.
But the irony to all of this is we've got President Trump, who's now got George Floyd, missing video, can't see what's going on. Daily Mail in the last few weeks, they leaked the body cam footage of what that 10 minutes that was missing, 6 minutes that was missing of him sitting against the wall and getting into the police car to him laying down on the ground. We have another one of these on our hands. It's another hands up. Everything that I saw in that footage as he's trying to get into the back of the police car, automatically already saying, I can't breathe, start saying incoherent things about his mother and everything else who had passed away 2 years ago. It wasn't like this was a recent just happened thing. This is over 2 years ago that his mother passed away. And he's saying all these weird things while they're trying to get him into the back of the vehicle. We'll roll down the windows for you, George. We'll do all these things for you, to help you feel more comfortable. He's trying to say, I'm claustrophobic. But he was just brought out of a vehicle when he was arrested. If he's claustrophobic, how was he doing behind the driver's seat?
Right.
So here's all these things that are not consistent. He's constantly saying, I can't breathe. This is long before the knee ever happened. I can't breathe as they're trying to put him into the back of the vehicle.
Wow.
And then he says, lay me down on the ground, put me down on the ground. And he kept constantly saying that too. So when they did put him down on the ground, he starts kicking officers. That's when they applied the knees down onto him to get him to calm down and to quit
Right.
fighting and resisting there. And then that's when you see the footage click back in of the 9 minutes or so that you see with the officer's knee on his neck. The reason why they didn't show that footage of between him sitting on the wall and what happened before that knee got onto his neck is because it was a complete hands up. He was resisting arrest. He was not listening to orders. He was incoherent. He was begging them to do this, begging them to do that. If media had released that, do you think we would have the riots out there? All the outrage, the uproar that we got.
Well,
I'm not saying that George shouldn't have died. I agree with that he shouldn't have died that way.
No.
But when medical reports come out and say it wasn't the knee on the neck that caused him to die, it didn't choke him to death. There's no reason why he should have stopped breathing because of a knee on his neck. The medical report shows that he's high on meth, high on fentanyl, and he's positive for COVID. Oh, wait a minute. Doesn't COVID make it hard to breathe? So if I was to really be technical about it, he's another COVID death that didn't get counted as a COVID. The one and only one. Yeah. You commit suicide, you blow your brains out, but you got COVID, you're a COVID death. It wasn't the gun and the bullet.
No. Or the two bullets.
Yeah, the other, we won't go into that guy's suicide, but I know which one you're talking about there.
Yeah, but fentanyl will be enough by itself.
Yeah.
As far as death. I mean, that's serious stuff.
So here we are in Alaska, and out of the conspiracy theory and back into reality again. We've got the illegal binding caucus.
Right.
Whenever it comes to anything that reduces the budget, the binding caucus stands up and says either we're not going to hear this on the floor, or we are going to hear this on the floor because you're bringing it up during the floor session, but we're going to unanimously, as the controller of the binding caucus, I tell you, I'm not going to vote for this, and everybody that signs into that agreement follows suit.
And if you don't, your chairmanships are going to be removed, such as the 4 people that we've had. Showers, Shelley Hughes, over in
Laura Reinbold, Sarah Vance.
Good girl, Vance,
David Eastman, they don't want to talk. I know they don't want to talk about David Eastman, but he's had the same thing happen to him.
Oh, they're treating, no pun intended, but they're treating him like a redheaded stepchild. That's the portion is why they hate David Eastman is because he calls for roll call vote, and because of a roll call vote, they have to say specifically go on record of I'm either for it or I'm against it, instead of just a roll call, nay, and just a voice call. And they hate him because he makes them have to say which side that they're on. And so therefore they say, well, David just doesn't play well with the rest of us children down here at Juneau. Well, you're not sending a person to Juneau for a social event. You're sending warriors down there to fight for you, the people. That's the reason why you're sending people down there to Juneau, not to have a great social event, or I could use a few other terms, but it's just it's a waste. It's not. Yes, you want to work with people that will work with you, and yes, you strive for that. But we've already seen how well the Democrats and the liberals work with us conservatives. We had the majority, and we gave it over to the Democrats, and what have we gotten? Goose egg, absolutely nothing here in the Valley, and stripped of all our representation to be able to have some influence by having our chairmen stripped out of their positions. It's we just need to get along. How does this thing of working together work for us? It doesn't. So what they understand, what the liberals understand, is power. That's what they understand. And only until you have power and the ability to stand, that's the only time they're going to understand it. So bottom line is, if you would send and vote for people to go down there and stand in the Senate who would be willing to take the flack and the crap on it by voting against the budget, only then, if you have a governor who would stand up and veto.
Which we have.
If we had that, we need about 7 or 8 people, and at that point we can make them have to take that budget, which they send over to the Senate, to say, do you agree or do you disagree? And if you have people who will say, no, I don't agree with this, you take it back and you start making some cuts. and some serious cuts until there's blood running over there, because we're talking about $1.5 billion over where we're supposed to be.
Yep.
So only until then are we in a position where you say, okay, well, maybe I can give you a little bit on the PFD. But until that point, no. The money is yours. You should be having a full PFD.
No, I'm going to hold you to the fire here. I mean, you just offered to give a little of my PFD.
I did. I did.
I mean,
I know you're not going to like me, but
I won't.
but the point is, there has to be a point that you've got some power, and until you have that point, there is no negotiating from the liberals coming from the Democrat side. There is zero, and that's exactly what we've gotten down here. Nothing. So it's not pretty. I'm not happy about that. But the point is, I mentioned the other night in that they had in the assembly, or the Wasilla Chamber of Commerce.
The debate that they called it, or
It
forum,
it was no debate. There was no portion there. You weren't really being able to come front to front as far as
come in and
issues.
waste your time and spend 3 minutes talking about the exact same crap
Yep.
that you've been talking about
Yep.
since day one. Nothing new.
Nothing new. There was no debate.
I was really depressed about that. And to see one candidate, I'm still yet to catch her name, that shows up. Never seen her at any forum, any other candidate
Finch.
debate.
Finch, McCain. I forget what her first name is.
But
McCain Finch.
anyways, yeah.
She's the only person that I've never seen her ever on any of the things out, the Republican things out there in 8. I've never seen her on anything else, but she shows up for this one.
Yeah. And
2 minutes.
it just and it blows me away. And then get the softball question about KGB Road.
Yeah.
I'm going, I'm sorry, that is a discussion that is beaten to death. I go with your candidate that you're running against, David Wilson. He adamantly says, I fought hard to make sure you got that road resurfaced. And all I keep thinking is how hard did you fight when Governor Walker took all the funding away, the fully funded project,
Absolutely.
fully vetted project, the one that was ready to break ground and had been breaking ground left and right, to steal that money back out of that project to fund his gas line to nowhere. Where was you fighting for it back then, David?
Dave Wilson is a go-along, get-along politician. That's exactly what he is. Just whichever way the wind's blowing, that's the way he's going. And he's not for the people. He's for elevating himself in the structure of which he gained a vice chairmanship, and either it was 2 or 3 other committees that he was placed upon, while his fellow contemporaries, his conservative, of which he wants to call himself a conservative, doesn't even know what to mean, of which they lost chairmanships. But he gained in the situation a vice chairmanship of transportation, and it's either 2 or 3 other committees that he gained in that process. He can say, well, but I didn't want them. Well, you took them. So if you took them, or they were assigned to you and you didn't reject them, then you took them at the expense of the other conservative who got penalized because they wouldn't go along with Commodore Giesel, or dictator or comrade.
But I think what they did to those people was despicable, and I that should not happen to anybody. But thank you for the committees.
Yes, and my office is always open to be able to hear what you have to say. My ears are always open. You can call me at such and such. Yeah, right.
All right, we got we've kind of gone into the Department of Health and Social Services. We brought up the subject of our
got to be reduced.
$3.6 billion, $3.2 billion that's budgeted for it this year. Senator Shower is estimating a $300 million supplemental budget this year for health care to be added back in again.
I've bounced into several other people in the healthcare industry, and they've said that they work that program. They said, don't use my name, but there are so many areas that could be cut. He says, it's sickening, because I was the one that even expanded them. And he says, I can tell you where those areas are. So it's enough.
Every doctor's office has 10 employees that does nothing but their billing all day long.
Yeah.
10 people to do one person's job, because there's so much little bit of paperwork and nuances that we can build this department, build that department, build this department, build that department, this department, and that was just one appointment.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's ridiculous. It's insane what we've got going on.
So we got K through 12 early learning, University of Alaska. University of Alaska, governor negotiated a deal with them, started out at $900 million in 2018. They're currently at $850 million thanks to the contract that he negotiated to reduce the budget by $75 million over a 3-year period. Your first year in office is their last reduction of another $25 million, so it'll be $825 million. When you get into your second year in office, you're going to have the power of the purse strings again over the university. Are you planning on, I mean, what's your intentions for them? Do you want to throw them more money to make up for what they have lost? Call it inflation proofing of them. Are you wanting to take away more money? I mean, I'll throw the last curve into this kind of setup here for you. Is they are a land grant university, and they have so much dang land in their possession they could sell it 10 times over and fund themselves for the next 50 years if they really truly wanted to.
Right.
They'd be landless, but they could fund themselves for the next 50 years if they wanted to.
Well, seeing as how you look and you're starting to talk, we're talking about the whole educational process, and of course, the young ones, they need a special attention. You know, they're going to need more hands-on with that. I mean, that's obvious. With little children, you're having to do things there. Your kindergarten and your elementary grades.
Well, I'll just focus on the university just for the moment.
Well, where I was going to go with this was whenever we are first or second of expenditures per student in the state, and yet we're either last or just off of the bottom. Throwing more money at it has not worked. It's perfect demonstration. We've got the facts and we've got the figures on it. So throwing more money at it is not going to solve the problem. So, okay, are our students that illiterate? Are our students that brainless? Or I'm trying to search for the right word here. Are they?
I want to say ignorant, but ignorance comes because you haven't had the chance to learn it. So they got to be just plain outright stupid because there's no ignorance going on there. They've had the chance to learn it.
There's a portion here that I'm not sure. I may disagree with you a little bit on that because I'm not sure that they've been taught. Because as we were saying, their ignorance is the lack of being able to be taught and instructed.
So are you meaning as in the students aren't ignorant? Or
well, we've got
the students are not stupid, I mean?
Yes.
Okay.
What I'm saying, this gets complicated in terminologies of what we're talking about. You've got 3 factors. We've got money, okay? They've already got all that they need there. You've got the students, you know. Then you have the portion which is involved really 2 aspects of that. You have the teachers, the administration, and their curriculum. So are these students less intelligent, less capable mentally of learning? Or are they just average students? Or is the problem within the curriculum and in the administration? You know, I tend to believe...
If you were to take a guess?
I would guess for this one, seeing as how I have a Bachelor of Arts in Teaching, and I know that even though Uncle Sam said that we would like your services, this was during the Vietnam time, so come and join us. Was my option that I was given, like now. So I went and I flew for the Marine Corps. But the process is I saw the education declining because I also saw that basically discipline within the classroom was out the window. Corporal punishment was stopped, and I saw that you expended enormous amounts of energy trying to maintain control. And whenever you don't have control, you don't have learning. That's the bottom line. You have to have control. And now you basically have the children running the situation. And so now we have kind of a glorified process of trying to maintain control, trying to be socially acceptable, and all other things.
Here's your safe spaces in school.
Yes, yeah. That gets into a whole lot of other things. But the problem is, if the children are not going to be there and they're not ready to learn, then send them home to their parents and let their parents deal with them. You know, let them take the burden of it instead of it being the problem of a glorified situation where you're trying to be a babysitter and control kids that have no desire to learn. Put it back on the parents, who it's their responsibility to say, Johnny, you're going to learn. or Missy, this is the way it's going to be, or the restrictions. You like your phone? I'm sorry, that phone is mine. I paid for that. You don't get it until your grades begin to start coming up. There are restrictions that parents know the children don't run it, and know you're not going to hurt them, you know, by giving them correction. So those are some of the thoughts that are there. we have, and also, if one of the things that I mentioned the other night at this Chamber of Commerce that I haven't heard anybody else talk about. I've never heard anybody else bring this up. But if everybody wants to protect their own little special pet project, we're going to cut yours, but we're not. But mine, no, mine's sanctimonious here. You can't touch mine, but we're going to cut yours. If we can't come to agreement and we can't cooperate all together, then at this point, then we will all have a 5% cut across the board. And no, it's not according to department. It's everybody. Like we had the president of the University of Alaska with his $400,000 salary, that here he cuts the budgets of the janitors. No. We all get a 5% cut.
Start at the top and work your way down until there's nothing left after that.
Absolutely everybody, not departmental. No, it's everybody's salary gets cut. And we, at the end of 1 year, you say, okay, let's reevaluate. How are we doing on the budget? You know, are we beginning to balance the budget a little bit? Oh, we're not. Okay, well now we have to increase it to 7% or maybe 10%. Everybody gets a 10% cut. Everybody. And at this point, oh, how are we doing on that budget? It would cause you to get very concerned about how they spend your money down in Juneau if you're getting that pay cut. But you already are through the fact that they're taking your PFD. And they've been doing that, what, 5-6 years? I mean, they've been stealing your money. It's time to get concerned, people. It's time to wake up and say, I got a thief in the house. You know, and they're in Juneau. And I vote for these people, and I vote for the same one that's been in the past, thinking that there's going to be different results. Something's a little bit loose up here. When you've got that going on, you got to say, you know, doing the same thing that you've always done and expecting different results. That's a definition of insanity. We got to stop this. We really have to get concerned, and we have to say, hey, stop this. Quit rehiring and putting these same people back down to Juneau that have created this mess. Put some new blood in there with some new ideas, some new thoughts. I haven't heard about anybody coming in and saying, okay, let's take a 5% cut. You know, nobody's willing, their pet project, no, they're not going to let it. I know I've said this before, but good grief, there are solutions to this. It's not as complicated as they want to make it.
It isn't. K through 12, early learning, 2018, $1.24 billion.
Wow.
So, you know, 1.24, 1.25. These numbers are average of what they had spent on that in the 2018-2017 year.
Through K-12.
K through 12.
K through 12.
And early learning, whatever was a part of that program
yeah.
in the beginning. In 2020, that has been risen to $1.3 billion. So that's a $60 million increase in just 2 short years. They're making claims that we've cut their budget. We continue to keep cutting their budget.
To the bone.
Every year we cut their budget. They're getting paid less now than they were before. But going off of their own numbers, a $60 million increase. That's not cutting, that's increasing. We've got triple the administration out there that of anywhere else in the United States. We have 54 school districts. Hawaii is our closest example because of their geographic makeup of being in different islands, remote type settings. They have one. We have 54. If you go with the combined one, we've got 53 school districts that are out there. Mm-hmm. We have 504 schools in our district. We have one school that has 6 students in it that gets $139,000 per student. Those 6 students, that's enough to be able to send all 6 of them to college in the first year of running this school to Harvard. You can pay 4 years of college tuition for each one of those students, for those 6.
In 1 year.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
What it's costing to operate that school. We've got Bethel is another good example. They've got the University of Alaska in there. They've got healthcare, and they have government. Those are their three biggest money-making opportunities that they have in there. You can hear the combined theme. Healthcare, government money.
Right.
University of Alaska, government money. And their government operation to keep, because they are the hub for all the villages that are around them,
Yep.
government money. So their three leading industries that they have in Bethel is government, government, and government.
Yeah.
So we wonder why everything's costing so much.
Yeah.
I'm going to throw out Barrow, Yugotovic, in the Great White North up top. $28,000 per student to go to school there in Yugotovic. Wow. $28,000. They are the hub for their region, for where they are at. They have all the outlining rural villages, all use them to fly into, and then from there they go wherever they need to go to, or they have healthcare, they have the university, and they have government as their three top leading industries of how they make money. Guess what? Just name the top three again. Government, government, government.
Right.
Where is the private sector? Where is the income that comes in from that? And they make oil revenues too. They get a portion cuts like that.
Big time.
Valdez is a good example of oil subsidized economy. They have something like $150 million sitting in a fund that never gets spent, that continuously keeps growing because they take those oil subsidiaries they get for the leased lands and stuff, and they keep putting it in there. Valdez is one of the unique places that we have in Alaska. They've made their money work for them.
Yeah.
They haven't overspent.
Right.
They're doing it now though. They got a whole certain people on the certain side of the spectrum over here, not this side of the spectrum, but that side of the spectrum.
Oh, for you on the television, it would be this side.
No, for the television, they're looking at it just the way it's supposed to be.
Okay.
It's not like looking in a mirror. And it's one of those things that you look at where all the money is being spent and taken care of out there. The further you get away from the population centers, the more it is paid for by our tax dollars and government. The closer you get to the population centers, we are paying for our own existence. The closer you get, the further away you get, the more it costs. Yeah. Out here in the Mat-Su Valley, average cost per student somewhere around $13,000 to go to school. Wow. That is less than half of what it's costing to send a student to Barrow or Yugotovic to go to school.
I was just talking with a lady the other day that did homeschooling. Said it cost her $1,000 a year. $1,000. Homeschooling.
You're beating me into it here, but that is okay. You can do homeschooling, and you can get up to $3,000 a year to homeschool your student. But just like the CARES Act money, you got to document where every penny that you spend goes, and it has to be strictly on education things. You just can't use that to go and pay your rent or your electric bill. Yeah. Yeah. But you can get up as a parent up to $3,000 a year to educate your student. My child is now taking advantage of virtual classrooms. Came to me this year, wonderful. Says, I don't want to go to regular school anymore, Dad. Can I go to just strictly to virtual classrooms? I've got one of those kids that parents wish everybody was blessed with.
Right.
A very much of a go-getter, a very self-starter, straight A honor roll student.
Right.
Somebody that, like I said, parents dream of having. I personally do not know how I got blessed with such a wonderful child. So I said, just like when it came time for you to go to high school, and at that point I said, you pick where you want to go. Here's the school that I want you to go to. You go out there, and she dragged me around. I can't say I drug her around, but she dragged me around. We drove to all the different high schools out there, and we interviewed them.
Wow.
And she got all the information she could possibly get from them, about their school. And then she came back, started doing the Google research, started going on the ASD website, started going on to the municipality or the Mat-Su Valley's website, comparing all the different high schools out there, no matter where it was located at, and then started crunching the numbers. And Ultimately, she picked a school that most people would consider your last resort type school to go to.
Right.
This became her top choice.
Wow. Okay.
Because they had a learning education that was all done on tablets. You didn't have no books to carry around.
Luggage.
All of your assignments was done on a tablet. All of your work was done on a tablet. All of your information and research needed to be done was done on your tablet and provided to you in lessons that were point and click. On top of, if you wanted to do more research, the internet was nothing more than
a
click away on that same tablet to do
library.
a Google search, to search the World Wide Web on more information the further your research.
Right.
So she came to me just about a month and a half ago and said, Dad, here's my research. She sat down this binder
Whoa.
in front of me.
Impressive. Okay.
Typed out, printed out, graphs inside of it, statistics built for averages of what the virtual classrooms were doing versus the brick and mortar schools.
Can she skip school and send her to Juneau? Somebody with some sense and logic and reasoning going on here?
So ultimately, she ended up going to iGrad Idea School. And if you were to go and look at them, their statistics, their scholastic scores and everything else are doing, they're up in the 90 percentile for the state of Alaska.
Wow.
Their graduation rate is 98%.
Whoa.
And so they're at the top of their game when it comes out there. On average, compared to the school that she was going to originally before this, 30% higher scores across the board in scholastics than what her current brick and mortar school was producing.
Wow.
30% more. So here's 60% was their highest in math. They're in the 90 percentile.
Wow.
English, 40 percentile. 70 percentile, and I wish I could say that was their low score. The idea was doing more closer to 80% across the board compared to all the other brick and mortar schools. 90 percentile for comparison of the other schools that are brick and mortar in the state of Alaska were sitting at the same level or just slightly higher. They weren't, beating them by 95, 100% better than that they were. They were all within that 90 percentile because we don't have a school in Alaska that does 100%.
Sure. Yeah, our scores are horrible. Either dead last or off the bottom is what as you're talking, go ahead with what you're saying there.
Well, to make a long story short, she's now been enrolled almost 3 weeks now. It might be closer to a month, but I think it's only been about 3 weeks. She's already got 5 full credits for the year.
Wow.
So in other words, she's already completed 5 classes in just 3 weeks. That normally would have been, at this point, here's your first quarter of the school year. She's already finished her first quarter, completed it, and out the door. And these aren't partial credits for a quarter class. This is a full credit.
Wow.
Towards graduation, because these are full 60 course plus 120 courses that you have to take per credit, assignments and everything else, and then complete the test. And she's hitting at a 90 to a 98% on everything that she has gone through and tested out on so far.
But not all students would be able to do this kind of a curriculum, I don't believe.
That's, in my opinion, that's virtual classrooms is where we need to be taking our education system.
I think so.
But we need to leave 20% of our brick and mortar schools out there for, and I think this is where you should step in. To take care of those that need the brick and mortar.
Sure. You're early, where I was going way back when we started talking about education and stuff like that. I believe that your kindergarten, your pre-learning, that portion really needs a lot of hands-on for those kiddos that are starting right in through there. But whenever you get into junior high with these kids today, there's so much into tablets and phones and everything else. They live and breathe off of this stuff. So why then not be able to utilize it? I've said before to other people that in all my time in college and everything else, that I only had 2 math teachers. I say, what do you mean? You only took 2 math courses? No, I only had 2 math teachers. The rest of them were just graders. And so, but I had 2 teachers in math that were so smart that they could figure out why that you couldn't come to the conclusions and understanding the process as they're going through and writing stuff on the board of why you're having a problem from this step to this step to this step. And they were so smart that they could figure it out. So what you could have in these mid to upper classes, you could have your super teachers, and they are out there. You could have them to be able to teach with the virtual media and everything else, and especially in Alaska. Good grief, the distances that we have to cover here to the villages. You could have these super teachers being able to be there. Then in the classrooms, you could have basically like tutorial teachers, not to minimize them,
Tutors.
basically to assist them wherever the problem is. And even on this stuff, where you have an instructor like this, you could have them coming in later to be able to help in those specific areas where there's problems. And with this process, you can be able to have the very best. You could have an exciting history teacher that could make history come alive. You could have an English teacher. I remember one, boy, she was hard. Good grief, Mrs. Satterwhite. She was tough. But we had Roman togas and Greek togas and stuff that we had, and Greek and ambrosia. And
Made
everything.
the class fun to learn.
Yeah, I was studying all the different things, and oh Lord, the diagrams. We'd have one board since diagramming one, and it would cover the whole entire board, going down there to know what your prepositions are, what's your participles, and just on and on. It was get crazy, but anyhow, you have these people that can demand that. So you have some students that are way high, that they're academics, they understand click, click, click. People like Einstein, that even his own teachers said this is an unteachable student, because he was thinking beyond where they were for the class that's coming along here. He's way beyond. So he's bored to tears. Then
That was my kid.
Yeah. Then you have others, strugglers or whatever else, and I was always a struggler coming on asking all the dumb questions, but
That was me.
I was going to say, hey, what about this? Of course, there's a whole bunch of other kids that are sitting there going, well, I don't know the answer either, but I sure am glad he asked, So, you have those groups, and you can divide this thing out. We've already proven through this COVID-19 that it is attainable, that they shut the schools down, yet they paid the teachers and everything else. You want to make this fair, then start cutting your payment on all the government offices and everything else, where you cut them down.
Why do we need all these administrators when the teachers are doing all the hard work to begin with? And the computers are grading their work for them.
Yep. The administration, when you look at the costs are in the administration. We need to be cutting those jobs. Superintendent, as we were talking about, 54 different school districts. Hawaii has one for all the islands and everything else.
Yep.
And we need to have one in the superintendent, and then we need to have principals, and then we need to have assistants of the principal, and then we have to have assistants of the assistable, and then we have the discipline of a principal. And no. I was in Walmart the other day, and a girl and her husband looked at me and said, "Do I know you?" I said, "You're Santa." I said, "Yeah." I said, and she said, "Well, I'm a teacher." And I told her several of my thoughts, and I said, what we need to do is we need to cut out the administrative, because this is a major bulk of where the money goes. She said, I haven't had a pay raise in 3 years, and I'm still making the same minimal amount, pathetic amount. It used to be great coming to Alaska, but it is not any longer. They can't even hold the teachers here. So the bottom line is we need to be paying those teachers and working with the students, and with the technology we've got now, you can cut the costs. In facilities and buildings and stuff like this, you don't need to have all that stuff.
Nearly half of their money that they get right now, do you believe it, goes into just their medical? Nearly half of the $1.3 billion they get, I think it's around $450 million goes into their medical programs every single year for their medical coverage. The 54 school districts refuse to join into a giant compact,
which would be only
buying power to be able to purchase their medical expenses that they have out there. Teachers could, and the school districts could give themselves an instant pay raise just like that.
Off of joining that.
Just by joining into one big giant conglomerate to buy out for their medical that they get. But each district, as we've learned in Alaska, we're different here. We're unique. Yeah. We got to do things our own way. Mayor Berkowitz, we're unique. We're different. We got to do things our own way. Doesn't matter how much it costs you, how much it steals from the other working folks out there that are paying for this.
Right.
We got to do it our own way. Juneau, no different. No. We've got to do it our own way. The only state out of 52 that has an illegal binding caucus because we got to do it our own way. It's the only way we can conduct government.
Because we got to go along to get along. Says what? The 3 or 4 that make the decisions?
10 total.
Yeah.
They're between the House and the Senate. If you take those that are the 40 that are in the House, the 20 that are in the Senate, there is a total of 10 people that control the entire binding caucus, and what gets passed doesn't get passed in Juneau. The other 50 people that are in Juneau are nothing more than, yep, they're just, you're a pretty face or you're an ugly face, but you're still a face. You're a warm body that's here in Juneau that is making your constituents feel good because they elected you, but you really have no voice in Juneau at all.
But you better do what we say, or there are going to be consequences.
Yes, when that state and capital budget comes around, by God and my constituents, I have to vote for that.
Yeah, I was forced to. I had no choice. Bull, give me a break. Come on.
I'm going to give, thank you so much for segueing me into this part. 2001, HB 2001, the bill that was passed in 2019, the very first one that the state and capital budget, the very first one that stole an RPFD for them to use tax revenue to pay a portion of our PFD with. Not a transfer from the ERA like it's been for decades, but it actually used actual tax revenue to pay our portion of our PFD. Legislators, the ones that I considered staunch conservatives, the ones that was in the Conservative Party, and I'm not going to mention their names just for the fact that I do want to see some of them get reelected because the alternative is just, I can't even fathom the thought of them making it into office. So I'm just going to avoid that for the moment. But these staunch conservatives gave me the excuse of 3 things that year. We have to vote for it because if we don't vote for it, the reverse sweep is not going to happen, and they're going to go out there and tell my constituents that I refuse to allow them to have the power cost equalization, the grants and money that's given for the medical programs, blah, 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 everything that goes along with the reverse sweep.
Just like excuses.
Exactly. Another big one that they threw out there, which is what we're paying the price for right now, redistricting of our electoral districts that we have. You're in Senate District D. House District 7 and 8. So you've got these different districts. They're redrawing the lines this year. They just got done announcing several of the picks. Who do we get for the Republican Party? They told me they voted this way because they had to keep the Republican Party in power. So the Democrats didn't get to decide who gets to do it. And so who do we get for our picks? The farthest person to the left, the person that sits in basically the Democrats' corner, pushes the Democrats' agenda. One that every conservative or outright real conservative or real Republican completely never would have chosen in their entire lifetimes. This is what this whole reason why they had to vote yes to stay in power.
Had to vote.
Was about. Now we've been screwed. So am I supposed to be protecting these Republicans? I mean, honestly,
the ones that have sold us down the river.
The ones that are sold us down the river, yeah. The ones that are I'll put it out there as an easy way without saying their names. They're in a television ad in a commercial right now for Jesse Sumner, backing him.
Wow.
I won't say all of them were. I'm not going to say none of them were, but if I was to take a guess and actually throw a couple of the names out there right now, they might be appearing inside of that commercial.
Yeah, they could possibly.
They could possibly be in that commercial, yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, it just boils down to where are we going with our future?
The problem is people want to believe the people who represent them. They want to believe that they're telling them the truth. And the problem is when it comes election season, you've got a bunch of used car salesmen, no disrespect to used car salesmen, but you got people that are lying to you, straight up lying and saying they're one thing when they really are they're a wolf in sheep's clothing.
Excuse my French here, Giesel the Weasel.
Giesel the Weasel is a primo example. And we even have them here in the Valley. Those who are bashing Eastman, they fit into that category.
They do.
Jesse Sumner, boy,
How many times can you lie during this campaign season, get caught with the lie, be having the lie pointed out to you, and then just change what you're saying to be something just slightly different, but still pushing the lie?
Yeah. It's amazing. And you look at their voting record. That's all I can say.
31st legislative session, David Eastman, this past year, 100%.
100%
Voting
conservative for the people. And yet here they are slamming him.
They want him gone because he's too conservative.
Yeah, he's too conservative. He doesn't play with the rest of us children down here in Juneau so well, you know. And he makes us look bad. He makes us look bad.
They want somebody that will work with them.
Them. What? So far to the left that we don't even know where the middle is?
I mean, I'm sorry if David Eastman is my representative.
Yep.
I want him there to be working for me, not working for them. Yeah. I want him to be working for me.
Absolutely. For the people of Alaska and the people who he represents in his district. And if he doesn't agree with that, either he needs to resign or he doesn't need to run for office, one of the two.
Yeah.
And they have promoted Jesse Sumner onto this. And I said, who put you up to this? Randy Rudrick? But he lied about that fact. I don't know him. Look at who he's there, and look at where this money is going from. And you even have Murkowski. You even have Murkowski, who is supporting their candidates to come against Eastman, Luke, and
Kirka and Meyer.
Yep.
And the money is being flooded in the Republican National Committee. I mean, the Murkowski PAC.
Yep.
Flooded $150,000 into our government.
And here they're flooding it in to basically take away your vote and to be able to get enough people to buy in, hook, line, and sinker, into the fact that, oh yeah, these people are horrible, horrible, horrible. Look at their records. You know, that's all I can say is people.
I'm going to throw.
Don't be gullible.
I'm going to throw out one more under the bus there. Sumner is bragging about how he is the one who got term limits in the borough. Jesse Sumner, you need to go and have a talk with a gal that has, she always puts the tagline on the end of everything that she comments on as from Dave Fuller. Dave Fuller and the other Fuller likes to say that it is because of them that we now have term limits. So either you got your story wrong or they got her story wrong, or by Dave Fuller's story wrong. It just blows me away. I'm also trying to figure out, what does the borough have to do with a state level? Your borough record means absolutely nothing when it comes to what's at a state level.
Yep. Well, coming back here to a few other things here that we've got. I hope that people will wake up. I hope that people can really begin to learn that Dave Wilson is not your friend. He's not representing you. He's representing his own self and the special interest groups, and he's being a very supportive lackey to Kathy Giesel, who's calling the shots down there in the Senate. And if you don't tell your friends about this, and you only got about 5 to 6 days here, you're going to have to get on a hustle. You're not going to be able to sit there idly. You're going to have to get on your phone. You're going to have to contact the people and make it happen and tell them, hey, check out Loy Thurman. And by the way, I don't know if I told you this or not, but Senate is going to be on the ballot. I had to fight him down there. I sent it in, and Gail Funanamia, I believe is her name, pronunciation, I'm not sure, but she's the one who is the director of the Division of Elections, said, no. You can't use a title. And I thought about it, and I said, Santa isn't a title. That's what people call me. And I thought about it a little bit longer, about a week and a half, and I said, no. She's also the one that kept Joe Miller from 100 signatures, and of course there's a whole lot of things that she threw out that, was very uncooperative and not abiding by the laws. But anyhow, I went back through the lieutenant governor and I asked him for a reconsideration on the situation. And I said, it's a nickname and it's what people call me. And so she sent me a letter saying, well, following Division of Elections procedures. And I thought, well, why didn't you in the first place? But anyhow, she said, I want 5 names of people in your local community that will vouch for the fact that you are called Santa. Well, I sent her 10, and I said, if you need additional names, I can supply those as well.
Do they got to be over the age of 18?
Yeah, they did, all of them. And
I
so,
was about ready to say I know of at least.
I've had it, being an older guy and everything else, it's really kind of neat. You have the kids that come up and give you hugs and stuff like that, or you're going through an airport and people saying, "Hey, Santa," you know, and stuff like this, you know, and you don't know them from Adam, you know, and stuff. But anyhow, she wrote this letter back and she says, well, due to the preponderance of responses, your name will appear on the ballot as Thurman, Loy, L-O-Y, and then in quotations, Santa. So Santa's going to be on the ballot, so it shouldn't be hard to find. And if you're a little confused of who to vote for, well, just ask your children. They'll help you.
Well, I'm going to throw a few more things out at you here. Gun rights.
Oh.
We got HB 62, the red flag law that keeps being pushed out there by Carr, Wilson, and they want this... come and knock on your door. Your neighbor called you in. They think you're a threat to society. We're going to come and take your gun away. That's the biggest one that they're trying to push out there is that one.
Yep.
But on gun rights in general, not excluding this, but including it. Where do you stand?
Being a former Marine, of course, you're never an ex, but you're a former Marine. Of course, people want to think that, oh, it's the legislature and the executive and the judicial, and it's the balance of power, you know. So no, the last balance of power that our brilliant people put into the Constitution, the first one was freedom of speech and of your religious freedoms on that. That was the first one. The second one that they put in was the right to keep a militia and to bear arms. And if you're talking about militia, you're talking about state-of-the-art weaponry is what you're talking about. And why is that? Because without that, you have a government that's gone awry. Are we close to that right now?
Well, very close, yes.
You know, that it's a beans of beans. That is the final check and balance to a government that's gone sour. And it's whenever judicial won't hand down just rulings that finally people have a belly full and they say we can't take the injustice anymore, and they finally revolt. Well, why are they revolting? Because of rotten laws that are put there, because of people getting raped of their monies that they have worked for, and you know, or from a person who thinks they're a dictator and a king. Do we have that kind of going on?
Berkowitz, yeah. Well, I'll just throw the name right out there. I'll save you the trouble.
Yeah, so we have these people, these little tyrants in these cities and stuff that are governors that think, I'm not talking about ours, but that think that they're just miniature Napoleons, they're miniature dictators. The only check and balance of that is that the people have their weaponry. That's why Red China thinks, oh, we should definitely disarm the people. They want them because we are the greatest army that there is, you know, of the people, of the citizenry with their weaponry. And they know that it would really take one heck of a lot if everybody would get unified. So do I believe in the rights of the Second Amendment? You bet I do, because it is the final check and balance on a government that's gone crazy, and we're really close to looking at that right now.
Sore subject for most people out there, especially for the person that's running against David Eastman out there, is the right to life and abortions. Mm-hmm. Most conservatives, this is a really easy one to answer. I mean, there's no question about it until you get to other, they call themselves Republicans. I'm a true conservative, and I'll admit, when it comes to the right to life, I'm kind of a mixed bag. I believe that technology is smart enough nowadays to where you're in your first week, you can take care of the problem. And in my mind, even though I believe that there is a life that has been conceived, you're not destroying or killing a viable life. I cannot harvest that right here and now, put it out onto the table and say, you're going to live without major complications down the road. But I do have a problem when someone comes to me 20 weeks later or longer, or even I could almost go to say as soon as a child is viable that can be taken out of the womb, put into an incubator, and grow up and not have birth defects and
Right.
deformities, and will
Right.
be able to live a full life, you have a child on your hands.
Absolutely.
And
A life is there.
but here in Alaska, you can have an abortion up to the time of birth.
Yeah.
You can be 9 months, 2 weeks into it, and you'll be given birth within 3 days and say, nope, I want an abortion, and have that child terminated. And what's even worse is they'll fly, once you get past 6 months here in Alaska, they don't have the facilities available to do that kind of an abortion. So you get a free trip down to Seattle to go do it.
A free trip to Seattle?
Yeah. But if you're to get an abortion here in Alaska and it's over 6 months, they don't have the ability to do that kind of an abortion that far into term here in Alaska safely. So they fly you to Seattle because they have the better medical facilities there.
Do you have to recover down there in Seattle?
There is no real recovery. It's just a 3-day turnaround process.
Okay. All right.
Most abortions are in clinic and out the same day that you walk in.
Okay. All right.
So you go down, you get it done, unless there's complications, of course, where I'm not going to say that's, but
Yeah.
the normal, this is what you're looking at. So, but Representative David Eastman brought it up one day on the House floor there about people waiting in the rural bushes, the areas, for their terms to be so far along, and then announce, okay, I can now finally take the time away to go have my abortion. And the state of Alaska now pays for their plane ticket to come from the rural village into Anchorage, from Anchorage, go to Seattle, pays for their hotel room, their medical costs, everything while they're down in Seattle, and then pays for their plane ticket to come back.
Does it pay for their shopping down there too?
Well, well, of course it does. The state's paying for their abortion to begin with. That means they're on welfare. They're already receiving welfare benefits. Where did that money come from to begin with?
I didn't think about that.
So yes, they are spending our money to go down on this.
I do know of a pilot that he says that's a chronic problem. You know, that he makes money off of that situation of people going down there to have an abortion. Where I feel on this is, you know, I'm a very spiritual individual. I am a born again believer. I teach a men's class at Big Lake Baptist Church. Love bluegrass music and gospel music at the same time. I play a big old stand-up bull fiddle and stuff with some very talented guys. But the bottom line on this is, I understand where some of them are coming from, because the lawyers are trying to come up with a definitive portion when you're dealing with something that has not taken the breath of life at that point. And in the Bible, and I have to study this a little bit more because it is a very complex portion. But the bottom line is, if a person injured in the Old Testament, and we have the laws that are there handed down from Moses, that if a person was injured, that if a man, by whatever means, hit a woman or whatever else, and that caused a stillbirth or whatever else, at that person was to pay a portion according to the length of where it was in the pregnancy. So if it was just at the very beginning or something like that, or if it was late term, then it would be a much higher fee that was involved. I tend to lean a little bit more of where God breathed into man and he became a living being. I tend to lean a little more toward that. However, we also have this other portion of where basically there was compensation because an injustice, a wrong had been done. Do I believe in abortions? No, I think it's wrong. Do I believe that a mother should have to go to jail because she made an abortion? To me, that's taken the portion too extreme, because what are you going to do with the other 2 children that she has at home while she's hauled off to jail? These are extremes to me. We are going to ultimately have to stand before God, and we're going to have to give an answer for what we've done. And if we murdered our own children, then we will have to answer to God for that. But I don't believe, as an Alaska citizen, as an American citizen that I should have to pay for somebody else to have a choice to be able to take the life of their child. I believe that that's wrong. I don't believe that I should have to be a participant in it, and I should have to finance the situation of that. I don't believe that it's right for a person to be able to go in, as we have, and I believe in New York, they have just come out with a deal that even after the baby is laying there on the table, been birthed into life, that then you can decide, well, you want to keep it or do you want to kill it?
Yep.
And if I'm correct in what I'm understanding on that, I mean, that's as blatant as you can possibly be, straight up murder. Or that they leave the baby partial birth and then they run in with scissors and then run scissors into the back of the brain of the child, but it's still in the womb because they don't want to have the baby.
Planned Parenthood is actually paid good money to try to make sure that that child is not damaged when it is removed, so that research facilities and everything else can pay them primo dollars for this child.
Money. Big money making. And there are some of the big ones that also finance Lisa Murkowski and some of the other people that are getting this money that's flooding in to be able to assist and help to persuade people from such a horrible conservative point of view. I'm being very facetious right now. The point is these people are committing crimes. They are committing crimes against children, the innocent. The Bible talks a lot about innocent blood, and this is what we're talking about, folks. We're talking about killing children that they can't protect themselves, and if we don't protect them, then who is? There is a portion of not being unreasonable, but boy, when a baby has gone on and you have a heartbeat that is there, at that point it's showing that life is there and that development is just growing and growing. You don't just throw that away. So do I believe in abortion? No, I don't. I don't believe that you should send the mother into jail, into prison, because of it. I don't believe that it's right for people to have abortions, and I don't believe that I should have to support financially what I believe is a crime. And God will hold us accountable for us and for us financing these deaths of this innocent blood that he talks about. It's very strong. God
I think you've nailed it where my thinking comes from. I kind of, I'm against abortion, so I've never been for them. And under the way the current laws are set up and everything else right now, we've seen what happens when they pass a heartbeat bill. It has been passed 21 times in 21 different states, and 21 times the Supreme Court has come back and says this is an unconstitutional law, and it is rejected. So what they consider a major victory is rejected. We've seen it here in our own state of Alaska, just removing the funding, $335,000 out. That no, we're not going to fund abortions here in Alaska. We're not going to make us, the taxpayer, pay for someone that wants to kill a child. And the Supreme Court comes back and says, you know what? Guess what? You can't do that. We're sticking that money right back in there. You can't remove it. I'm still trying to figure out how in the hell our judicial department gained more power than the combination of our legislators and governor. When did one department outrule the other two? I can understand judicial, legislative, how it can override a governor. Legislative, governor can override the judicial. Governor, judicial can override the legislator. But when did one branch, the judicial branch, get the power to override our legislators and our governor?
When you're talking about politicians, and we're talking about, in this specific situation, judges and lawyers, you're talking about people who give their opinions. And what
they're supposed to be following laws.
The judicial portion was never spent and meant to be an equal division. It was supposed to be a lesser division.
The check and balances for everybody else.
And the portion is what they do is whenever the legislative branch passes their law and the executive, the governor or the president, agrees with that, or he's in the minority so much that they even overrule in passing the laws, at that point, that's the law. Now the judicial can say, well, we don't really agree, but they're giving their opinion. This is the law. the judicial and Supreme Court, they do not make the laws.
Right.
Because if they're saying, no, this isn't right, no, you are to interpret what the laws are that are made. You're giving your opinion of it. And while we're on that...
Well, see, that's where it floors me is because we've got the Alaska or the Ninth Circuit Supreme Court. We have not heard from the highest Supreme Court of the land yet on this particular bill. Why has everything got to keep stopping? The buck's got to stop with our own local Supreme Court. Why is this not being taken all the way to Washington?
And there's another problem here with our Alaska court that we have, our Supreme Court that we have here, that court is not really voted in by the people.
They're not.
It's 3 appointments from the governor and 3 appointments from the Alaska Bar Association. Now, where the crap do they come in here and being able to try and say, okay, who's going to be the judge here? Where are the people that are involved in this? This is ridiculous.
The governor doesn't get 3 people. The Bar Association picks their own people that they want. They are required to give 2 to 3 candidates for every open position. By law, they have to give 2 candidates for every open position for the governor to choose from. The governor can either accept or reject them. And then based upon a rejection, they can have to now present 2 more. This is where the recall Dunleavy, the Scan Levy group came from. These guys said, oh, wait a minute, you can't do this with your judicial department. You didn't appoint somebody within the correct amount of time. We got 2 positions that are open. We're going to give you 3 people. You choose one of those 3 people out of the 3 that were given.
Of the 3 bad ones that were given you.
Right. Here's the 3 bad ones we give you. You chose one. There's still an open position. Oh, wait a minute. You still have those 2 other people to choose from. Mm-hmm. Now, wait a minute. You already gave me those 3 for the first pick.
Right. Where are my 3?
Where are my next 2 picks or 3 picks that you're going to present to me for my next pick? They refused to do it. Now, that's the reason why we're doing a recall on you, because you can't follow the laws. Well, going by the laws there, he already did his job on the first one. He did his job. And he's still waiting for them to do their job for the second one.
They haven't done their job. It's ridiculous.
But the courts, of course, ruled on feelings. Gosh. They felt this is the way it's supposed to be. They felt he can't cut the budget, can't cut their budget.
Touchy-feely, instead of facts. It's pathetic. We've got to change that judicial system. What the heck is the bar choosing these people for? Just for your own information, bar comes from an old English term, and that's exactly what it stands for, is British Accredited Registry. And they had their allegiance to the Queen of England. That's exactly what bar means. And they wouldn't even let lawyers even practice in the city limits when our colonies were first here, because why? They were working for the crown and they were sick of them. They wouldn't even let them be in the city limits. And part of our initial constitution was that they were going to ban a person from having a law degree to even be a member of Congress. But one of the secret people that was there, even though his colony and everything wanted to be able to have that rule, that no, it would be common citizens that would be running our country. He was a secret lawyer himself, and so he wouldn't agree, and therefore that didn't get put into the Constitution that you could not be a member of the bar as being a representative in the United States. A lot of people don't know that. But
all right, changing subjects here.
Yeah.
We got ballot measure 1, my share fair of the oil, and you've got Proposition 2, ranked choice voting. Let's give everybody a gold star to cast their vote.
Secret ballot. Okay.
So ballot measure 1, Prop 1. My fair share.
You don't kill the golden goose. If you don't, you kill the oil industry. They don't have to operate in these horrible, horrible Arctic conditions. Yeah, there is oil all over this place.
But they made $9 billion this past year.
Mm-hmm. That means that I'm supposed to begrudge them the money that they have to invest in oil and exploration. My father.
But wait a minute. They made $9 billion last year. I'm for yes on one, which I'm not, by the way. But I'm yes for on one. And they made $9 billion last year. I want you to completely ignore the $8 billion that they re-put back out in expenses, and that their gross net before paying their federal taxes was $1 billion.
G.
So they made $1 billion net profit that they now got to pay their federal tax dollars out of. Now, wait a minute. Yes on One keeps telling us there's $1 billion and $1.5 billion there that these oil companies are netting every single year, but here's this, okay, less than $1 billion now. We pay the federal taxes. We'll be nice. We'll say it's under the Trump administration, not the Obama administration. So only 20% of that money is being taken out, not the 50% they would have been at before.
Wow.
So here's your 20% that's being removed out of there. So they've got to take home $800 million. Out of that $800 million, they now say we've got this project that we're investing into Anwar. And this was not on the books before. We're going to take $200 million of our capital, $300 million of our capital, and we're going to reinvest it into a project in the Anwar. We don't get to see the financial benefit of that until next year's taxes. That'll be a part of that another $8 billion that got spent.
Right.
So they're reinvesting what they got. So they got a whole $500 million to split between all their corporate holders and everybody else that's out there. They're just getting rich, but they want their fair share, which is $1 billion. You just made a profit, as I just pointed out, around $500 million for the year. You made $9 billion in sales. You made $500 million off of that to take home after every expense in the book. And now, Yes on One wants your $500 million, and for you to come out with another $500 million out of your pocket on top of that. So $1 billion they can get back that they call on their fair share.
Crazy.
It is.
Crazy.
I mean, just spelling it out is I can't understand how their math works.
My father was an independent oil producer in East Texas, and and he always wanted to drill his own specific oil well that he was there. He was a great operator. The EPA, long story, but anyhow, the oil companies worked through the EPA to be able to shut down a lot of the independent oil producers that were there. He had to plug 21 oil wells that he had that were still producing, but whenever you toward the low cycle, the end of the production, that the wells produced
Before they came up with fracking.
Yep. And my father, good Lord, told my father how to do the fracking. Showed it to him in a dream. Took him down inside of a well and everything else. They had never done a frack job at all. Halliburton told him, said, well, we'll supply the biggest pumps. We've never seen anything done like this. And so Dad came down, Frank Thurman, and he went down there, and Dad showed me the well that was there. Shot the stuff out into the formation. The Halliburton supplied all the big pumps and everything else. As they're sitting there looking like this, if he had patented this, I'd probably be the czar of the world right now with the money that would be from all the revenues. But anyhow, they did it. It really became a great producing well. And Halliburton's saying, that's kind of an interesting process you did right there. But anyhow, the portion here.
So
he had oil wells all around him. I mean, and my oldest brother is a geologist and made big bucks for Helmerich and Payne, and being in there engineering where to drill and everything else. Everything looks good. That looks good all the way down. Drill a hole, dry hole, and you're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars. And we're just talking about a little bitty oil well, just a little bitty one. The amount of money that goes in, if these people who want to do this, do they want to take the risk also involved in being able to drill dry holes and exploration and trying to figure out
not in Anwar they don't, not in North Slope they don't. They can't afford that.
In that pristine plateau that's out there, infested with mosquitoes and everything else, no mountains.
You mean this pin tip right here in the middle of the Alaska that they want to drill a hole into?
Yeah.
Here's all of Alaska all the way around here.
We're going to destroy Alaska.
And we want this little tiny pin tip right here.
Yeah. It's just, no. As an employee, when you're, unions are great whenever it's egregious, but we're not in that situation anymore. People aren't working with children and child labor and everything else. And whenever the employees demand so much, and this is just a more greedy grab for money. Dad said if you took away the taxes that are charged on a gallon of gasoline, he said the government, the state, and everything else, you'd be paying pennies on the dollar. And I remember when gasoline was 10 and 12 cents a gallon. I mean,
my earliest recollection was 90 cents a gallon.
Yeah. I mean, I remember I was riding a bicycle around the pumps and everything else and stuff, and stuff. But we were in a unique. We had a lot of oil down in East Texas at that time. But as I said, I've been up here for 32 years. So if you're native born, that's good. But I'm even better than you because I'm a native by choice here. So that's. Dad used to joke about that too.
So I'll take it on Prop 1. Are you a yes?
Absolute no.
Okay.
You don't kill the golden goose, and that's the major revenues that come into Alaska. You're going to cut that off because we've already had companies pack up and leave.
The best economics in the world, economicists in the world that have into this Prop 1 and what they are planning on doing, they have predicted that within 2 years, we will watch over half of the production that is going on in Prudhoe Bay and stepping into Anwar right now come to a complete stop and leave.
Right.
Once those wells go dry, they're done.
It's over.
Yeah.
It's over. And where's the money going to come from them? Oh, we'll tax them more. No, you won't. They're going to be gone.
Well, that's why they're inflation-proofing our ERA.
Yes.
So they can get it up to $100 million so that they can use that to pay for the budget instead of anything else.
I tell you can't tax yourself into prosperity. It just doesn't work.
So we got Prop 2.
Oh, that's
choice voting, jungle primaries.
That's a strategic plan that would keep conservatives always out. Because the communist plan a long time, he says, give the people rope long enough in a free society of capitalism, and they'll be so greedy that what they'll do is they'll hang their own selves. And look where we're at. The greed of everything is the portion that's killing us. And everybody's got their hand out. Oh, I'm entitled. Well, you're entitled to get your butt out and work for a living. Now, there are certain people in our society that are slow, that are injured, that are different. This is a different situation, and you take care of those. And you take care of your elderly. Of course, I'm beginning to get there, but anyhow, the bottom line is, it's not for people who are just willing to sit on their butt and not do anything. The Bible says if a man's not willing to work, he doesn't eat. And being hungry and wanting to eat, that's a big motivator to get your butt out the door and do some work. And so,
be smart enough to educate yourself who you are electing and who you are not electing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Why are we giving...
Not just for more handouts.
I got one out there. If you type in Politidic and then ranked choice voting, I give a breakdown of the governor's race back in 2018, where I broke down the governor's race using ranked choice voting.
Okay.
Governor Dunleavy didn't win by 51.4%. He got only... I think at that time I had him down at 42% for my model, and I based it off of 100 voters. Ranked choice voting.
Okay.
By the time I was through, Begich had won the race by 51%. Governor Dunleavy lost the race by 49%. He only had 49% of the vote. And 25% of the most uneducated voters in the state of Alaska who voted for Walker. And I'm not going to say they were truly uneducated by voting for Tolan, but knowing that Tolan didn't have a chance in the world, but they still voted for him. I'm not going to call him the smartest of our people out there voting, but 25% of those that voted for Walker, who had completely pulled out of the race because of Lieutenant Governor Mallett's Me Too moment, that forced him to resign.
Right.
And if they're not smart enough to know that he's no longer in the race but still vote for him, what the hell are you doing voting in the first place?
If you're not that informed, what are you doing?
Exactly.
What are you voting?
If you're voting for the underdog Tolan, who obviously doesn't have a chance in there, if you listen to any of his candidate debates, he was not an educated person's choice to who to vote for.
Right.
So you had Begich and you had Governor Dunleavy.
Dunleavy.
And you didn't vote for either one of those in the very beginning because you were so stupid you voted for Walker instead.
Yeah.
But with ranked choice voting, those 25%, those 25 out of the 100 people decided the race for everybody else because they continue to get to vote by their ranked of who they wanted to win. Basically, here's your gold star, pin it on your jacket. Thank you for participating.
Yeah, did great.
Here's your reward. No, there's no losers anymore. Everybody wins.
Yeah, and I want my welfare.
Yes, give me my welfare now.
Yeah. I put a governor in there who'll give me anything and everything I want, and that's what the communists are counting on. That we're going to bankrupt ourselves and ruin. And you think everybody thinks that our country will never find its end. Is there? Do you have a USSR anymore? You know, Reagan ran them financially into the ground, and the debtors called due and said, "Hey." And when you look at the trillions of dollars, and you look at this COVID and how much it is destroying our economy, this is a real serious problem. I mean, America can go down. Look at every great country of the world, you know.
I mean, the United States with the roaring economy that we had, the Trump cuts, the tax cuts that we were given.
Going.
If COVID hadn't have stepped into place, we would have actually been able within the next couple of years, and I'm saying Trump into his second 4-year term.
Yep.
In the next couple of years, we would actually have watched the national debt begin to drop down.
Yeah.
It would have started to disappear. Not increase, it would have disappeared.
Yeah.
And that's because Obamacare would have finally made its way through the rest of the Supreme Court. The case that's coming out of Texas right now that had declared that that Obamacare cannot tax the big rollback that said that we no longer have to pay for Obamacare even if we're not using it, the tax that we were all getting. That rollback of that is being fought on a higher level, taking it to the Supreme Court to say that Obamacare is completely unconstitutional.
It is unconstitutional.
But the Supreme Court is bidding their time. They're hoping, they're praying that because they got only so long they can put this case off for, that they get a different president in the office.
That's what they're counting on.
And so that when that case gets there, they can just say, oh, well, nope, you know, this new president thinks differently. We don't have to listen to this case anymore. It's pointless. It's mute.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of where we're at within the country when it comes to ranked choice voting.
Right. It's horrible.
And we're just taking away our rights to continue to keep perpetuating the most uneducated, stupidest ideas that they can ever come up with, like Mayor Berkowitz in the Assembly and how to spend the CARES Act money. Just to sum it up into our own local, how much of an idiots are we?
Crazy. It's insane. You know, it's crazy.
Statutory TV, PFD, been on the books for decades.
People need to have that.
And then you got their...
stimulate the economy. They say if people get their money, if the government gets the money, it's gone. If the government, or you get your money in a common market, it circulates either 4 or I've heard even up to 7 times. You know, that he sells it, that he wants to buy a belt and they want to go get a haircut and da-da-da, that it circulates around 7 times.
7 times, yep. For every dollar that's spent with the permanent fund dividend by us, the people, it goes through 7 different people's hands before it finally makes it into the pockets of government again.
You talk about something that would stimulate the economy of Alaska? Give the people their PFD. They already owe us about $7,500. Rough figures.
Yep, 77 is the number I always throw out there. So you're actually closer than most people when they guess out there. I get people that tell me 6,000 or it's 4,000, you know, or 5,000, $1,000 a year. It's like no, it's 7,700.
You're right.
Before they gave us our $992 PFD this year, the $1,000 they promised us, but our $992 PFD.
I got to tell this one story. I was over there, and you may have been there that day, but I went into Eagle River and listened to Natasha von Imhoff. And
when she was talking to the Chamber of Commerce there in Eagle River and at the brewing company.
After she put on her dog and pony show, you know, when you don't understand what's going on and people are using big words and throwing this around and that word, you can usually count that somebody is in your pocket trying to steal your money. And that's the way finances is, because they use all these big terms, throwing all these terms and charts and graphs and all this stuff here, and saying how that we just can't let you have the PFD because
our ski trails are more important, our nonprofits are more important,
and
our
the Rasmussen Foundation, everything else here.
My grandfather said,
Yes, we should have we should have never had the PFD to the common people. That's what she says, and that's the way it is.
And her grandfather is rolling over in his grave saying, I have no relation to this person whatsoever, because her grandfather didn't talk that way back then. His way of thinking was not what Natasha advised. It's like a typical politician putting words into your mouth that you never said.
That he's dead.
But that says he's dead, yep.
The point I'm trying to get to was after it was over, as the question was asked, it's the people's money, and she's kind of going, no. I said, well, the people should be able to vote on this, is what I asked. The people should be able. She said, oh no, I could never do that. Never trust the people. And I said, on their own money?
And why can't the people vote on their own, about how to spend their own money? Give me the answer. I know you know what she said.
Go ahead.
because
I can't trust them.
Because the people of Alaska would vote to keep the money.
They would vote, and that's exactly what you said. It's been so long, but you're right. And I had another person here who was talking about it being the PFD. He said, oh, it's just disgraceful. People will spend the money, they may buy four-wheelers or whatever else. And I thought, they were a liberal, I could tell. But the portion being was they will just squander that money. What? It's their money, and you think that you have the right to tell them how that they cannot spend their money. You want you want the government to spend their money on projects that you have, either schools or whatever else.
We live in a state that has a good chunk of our population lives a subsistence lifestyle. They don't even live where there's paved roads, but they buy a four-wheeler.
Right.
Or they buy a boat so that they can
With
go
a
and do
motor.
their fishing. Yes, with a motor so that they can go and do their subsistence fishing. But this is the people squandering their money away.
No, it's Juneau out there squandering billions. We've lost, and we talked about this early on, $17 to $14 billion that they have squandered in the past 6 years. And the question is, where's the dam? Where they talk about electrical power and reducing that down, and we need to do this. Out of all that money, out of $14 billion, where's my dam?
Yep.
Where is this infrastructure? Where's the roads? Why isn't it already in place?
Why isn't Port McKenzie done and operating? Why isn't the
Absolutely.
rail spur gone?
Done. So
Speaking of rail spur,
yeah,
100% paid for. Not a penny is going to come out of Alaska's coffers to build it, but it's still sitting there going no place.
stupid. We have the second purest and finest coal that there is in the world, the second finest. And we can't get that stuff down here, and they won't finish up the port. We could have it being shipped out of here. All the jobs generated by that port down there. Then people would be coming here and living out here and building out here. So what it would build as far, why can't we get the road? Because the majority party, the Republicans, turned it over to the Democrats, and we see how well that they work back with us. We got goose egg and have been delayed on everything. And here we've got a dangerous road. Oh, they're so proud of the fact that we got it resurfaced because it was so below standards that the government wouldn't even put any money into it. But we still have, after it's resurfaced, and yeah, it's a nice job and a good job, but the portion is they're patting themselves on the back. Where are the 4 lanes down through there?
Yep.
You still got 2-lane traffic, and you're stuck by a slow truck or whatever.
And you still got sides along the edge of the road that are literally 2-3 foot drop-offs.
Yeah.
You hit the end of the pavement, and there is no dirt embankment there. It's literally, here's a sheer edge.
Yep.
Your tire goes over that edge.
Yeah.
You're done for.
4-lane out through there. Don't pat yourself on the back of what a great job we've done. No, I mean, get with the program. I don't know.
Yep, I went out that direction. It's been a while since I went all the way down the road. Usually I stop
went down there.
where the golf resort is usually where I stop. And that's about as far.
Settlers Bay.
Settlers Bay, yeah. That's about as far as I usually go down the road.
I went
But the other day,
went down to the bar there. Boy, I tell you, the people were friends, a bunch of bikers out there, and they were saying, "Oh, we like you, man. You're a good dude." And everything else. Give me one of those signs, you know.
I went to a park opening. Was why I was down there.
Yeah.
And if it wasn't for the candidate that was holding the park opening signs being on the side of the road, I'd never even known that there was a park built back in there to begin with. Exactly. I'm going down this road and going down the road and going the road rut, going down the road.
It's a great truck road.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden I see the candidate signs on the side of the road, and I do a quick look over my shoulder through the trees, and I recognize the pink truck that was parked up there, and I slam on my brakes and looking for a place to do a quick turnaround to go up there to go check out this brand new park they just built.
And it's only 3 more miles for the turnaround.
It is. And but this is that safe road that they're talking about. You know, the further you get out that direction, the worse it gets.
It's bad, really bad. And they're acting like they're so proud, you know. Lord.
Yeah.
Nope. It's a bad deal there.
All right, we've covered a huge chunk of things here, and going by the time we are starting to run out here, that we got to kind of wrap this thing up.
Okay, dude.
And so we've got some of their solutions to help out the budget this year is to tax us.
We've already been over that. It'll only raise $500 to $600 million, which is only 1/2 of $1 billion, and they're already starting into the year $1.5 billion. So we take care of by every.
And it'll also take 3 to 5 years to implement the programs necessary to collect this tax.
Oh, great. And
so
at what expense for be able to?
just so you're aware, out of that $500 million, $200 million of that is going to be for administrative costs to be able to collect the tax and redistribute the tax so that it can be spent. So $300 million goes back into the actual budget, but it brings in $500 million, but it grows government by another $200 million a year.
We need bigger government
to create a whole brand new tax department.
Oh yeah, it'll be a whole new division, of spending your money wisely. No.
Senate, which you'll be going into, they've passed SB 115. It's a motor fuel tax. It's designed to double our motor fuel tax. It'll take it from 16 cents to 32 cents a gallon. It's going to the House. When the House and the Senate went back here to Juneau here for the CARES Act money to give that 3 days there, all 3 days SB 115 was put on the House's docket to be heard on the floor. All 3 days it got moved to a following day until the final day they finally put it off to the very first time they go back into session again. SB 115 is to be heard on the floor because they want this tax passed. They want to collect an extra 16 cents a gallon from each and every one of us. We've all seen what happened when Mayor Berkowitz and the Assembly unilaterally decided to increase their gas by 10 cents a gallon. When's the last time you bought gas from Anchorage unless you had absolutely no choice?
If I'm about ready to run out, it's like my dad used to do. I tell you, we'd coast in fumes. I tell you, he could calculate to the nth degree. I'll be back to the valley.
Before this tax got passed, I would buy my gas in Anchorage because it was cheaper than what it was out here in the valley. Now I make sure that my gas tank is full before I go to Anchorage and come back.
That's true.
I make sure my gas tank is full before I make a run going to Homer, and I actually carry an extra couple gas cans with me so that I don't have to worry about filling up while I'm in Kenai and then pray that it's enough to get me into Anchorage. And with the truck that I have now, my gas tank is actually big enough to where I can drive and just do a top off when I get into Anchorage.
Right.
But fill up my 30-gallon tank out here in the valley.
Yep.
Drive in the Anchorage, put 2 or 3 gallons back into it just to make sure that it's topped off.
You calculate pretty tight.
Now I can drive all the way to Homer and all the way back out here to the valley before I actually have to gas up again. It beat my older vehicle that only did 20 gallons and had to carry a couple of cans.
And seeing as how we produce the oil up here, I think that we should have to pay more money to be able to get it. I'm being facetious, of course. I know that I'll probably get cut off before I say that I'm being facetious, that I'm saying that I'm endorsing it. No, I'm not. It's ridiculous. Why don't we have a refinery up here that's producing that is producing for us? I mean, why? But Randy Rudrick told me, this must have been 15 years ago. Oh, no. We don't need another refinery up here. No. Oh, no. Yeah, we do, So, anyhow.
Yep. All right, we're going to wrap up with the last few questions here. We got our resources: mining, timber, fishing, oil, art, PFD. I always got to throw our PFD in as resources out of the top 5, because our permanent fund dividend is generated and been created to redistribute the resources that we have from mining, timber, fishing, and oil. Every single one of our resources, a portion of their money goes into our ERA account, earnings reserve account, every single year. This is what's helped build that corpus from that first $900 million investment they had put into it back into the 70s to start it, back to 76, to start our permanent fund dividend. Our PFD is our resource. This is Alaskans' resource. This is Alaskans' share of our resources that we gave up to become the 49th state of the United States of America.
Okay.
Hammond in his great wisdom and several others, right. Hickel, and I'm going to, they all worked together back in the 80s and said from 1976 to 1982, they all worked on a plan to be able to redistribute the money. Several different plans were created. Mm-hmm. They finally settled upon the one that gave us our very first dividend, because the ones that had gone before were rejected. But then they came up with this formula, 5-year average, everything else. That thing went out there for 3 decades before government ever tried to touch it. There was only one attempt prior to that. You brought it up in your conversation with the Edie Burke Show there earlier. I want to correct Edie Burke. He said it was 73%. Just so you know, it's actually 83%.
Okay.
And
clarify, of the people that voted.
Correct. Back in 1999, it was put to a vote because we had also hit another economic recession back then. Our real estate market and everybody else had tanked. We had lost 100,000 people that were living in Alaska, had basically packed up and left. We had gone from $114 a barrel to about what we're seeing right now. And we were just economically destroyed. They were figuring the only way to fix it was to start spending part of the ERA. And unlike what they're doing now, they gave a vote to the people.
A vote to the people?
A vote to the people.
Are you kidding me?
You and I got the vote on it.
Oh, my goodness.
So back then, and we got the vote on it, well, 83% of the population came out and gave a resounding no. And this was with mass advertising of the opposition to the program. We must have it now.
We're going to collapse.
You couldn't turn on your television set, and back then it was 3 or 4 television stations, and cable was just starting to get a foothold out there in the world, and more so than what it is right now. Right. I mean, we might have had GCI back then, but we're talking 1999, so we're just...
Did we have Facebook back then?
We had, I don't know. I don't know if Facebook existed at that point. I'm a latecomer when it came to joining Facebook originally. I don't think I had joined them until the 2000s. But I know my kids were on it, but I wasn't. So here we are. We were given the vote. 83% of the population said a resounding no. And I know it's 83% because I got a post that I have been sharing now. It's almost 2 years old. That was done by Senator Mike Shower. And Senator Mike Shower had pointed out that back in 1999, we had a vote, and it was 83% of the population gave a resounding no.
You know, there's a country western song that I think of that comes to that. Don't tell me your lies and keep your hands to yourself. Keep your hands off of my money. Quit telling me your lies and keep your hands off my money.
So if you get into the office, I mean, we've got big opposition. I'm hearing Donald Trump Jr., whatever his name is. I'm terrible with names. You give me a face, I'll give you a thumbs up. Yeah, I know who that person is. You give me their name, and I kind of look at you. But we got the Trump Jr. anyways that is coming recently out and says he's 100% against Pebble Mine because he's a big hunter, he's a big gamer, he's all about wildlife. Yet I still have the same question that I've had for anybody that opposes this mine. How is it that less than 1% of the fish population that is found in the Bristol Bay region comes from this watershed that this mine is going to be built in? Less than 1%. I'm going to keep repeating that. And there is a less than a 1% chance that if the worst ecological damage that you ever think could happen, the tailings pond bust, we're in the middle of, we've got NOAA-classed flooding going on, to where we've got arcs being built because there's so much water that's going to be flooding the earth at that point happens, there is less than a 1% chance that will actually reach the watershed. So less than 1% of the fish population is in this watershed, and less than 1% of chance of ever, in the worst ecological stupid thing, EPA goes in there and digs a hole into the front of the dam like they did down in the lower 48, polluting the oceans under the Obama era, the rivers that were there. EPA wanted to go out and do a test. You can look it up, turn the rivers rusty red and brown, and dump the entire tailing ponds in, because they had dug right in the front of the tailings dam and caused a hole. And as soon as the hole started to flood out, it
went everywhere.
And everything went completely out into the water there.
Good job, EPA.
So these are the people that they keep saying, well, you got to listen to the EPA, but the EPA causes these kind of...
They're the experts.
Yes. They serve their purposes to get from 1900 technology to the 21st century technology. I'll give them that. They started to force people to clean up the messes they had made before we had environmental regulations out there.
But there's a point of usefulness.
There is a point of usefulness, yes. They have reached their point of usefulness. It's kind of like the people that say save the whales, and where they started out at, and now you look at their platform, it's no longer saving the whales. It's what Greenpeace program can we get to today? You know, what far left dream of climate change that we can talk about, global warming, global freezing, global heating. None of those words exist. We're in climate change.
Yeah.
You know, because climate is always changing. You can't argue against climate change because it's always changing.
Especially in Alaska, every 30 minutes.
Every 30 minutes. Yeah, you don't like the weather outside, go driving for 5 minutes. I'm sure you'll run into that, something different there. So we've got all these different industries. We've got regulations. I mean, if you were to get into office, or you have any intentions of trying to roll back some of these far-reaching restrictions that we have, and I'm going to say it just that way because...
There's two things. Trump had a great policy that before you can pass any one regulation, you have to take two out. And that's one of the greatest things. My father, a long time back, which he was always on the periphery of always making contact with his senators in Texas and stuff, and he said that on odd years you could pass legislation, but on even years you had to take back and correct all the mistakes that you'd made in the odd years. You couldn't pass any more new legislation. So we've got too much regulations. We're running over them. Somebody the other day said it would take, gosh, what was that, 3.5 days of reading constant. The amount of statutes and stuff that we've got in Alaska is ridiculous. And that would be 24 hours a day of reading it. We've got way too much regulation, too much people trying to justify their governmental job that they have to be able to slow down those who are actually producing revenue. I hate to say this, but a thought just came to my mind. If you're shuffling papers, are you really producing anything? Or are you just monitoring somebody else and then taxing them, and you have to get a certificate, or you have to get this permission slip, or this ability to be able to do something, a license? You know, and why? You usually get a license to do something because it's illegal to do it, but then that's imposed by who? And then you got to keep the records, and who are the ones that are really generating it? Are you building something? Are you making something? If all you're doing is shuffling papers, are you really creating anything?
Well, the good example would be is here I got this road I want to have built. It's sitting on this island. It's a life-saving road. Yeah, I'm sure you know which one here in Alaska that I'm describing.
Yep.
And you can't have this road because even though you have now fought through all the red tape, you got the approval from every department that you needed to have it gone through.
Yep.
You did the land transfers that was necessary to be able to make it legal to use the land that you want to build this road on now.
Right.
And here walks in the EPA once again.
One more time.
With the Greenpeace type climate change enthusiasts out there all saying, you can't build this road because you might hurt this waterfowl that lives exclusively nowhere else but in these 5,000 other locations, but exclusively right here you can't do this.
It might.
It might hurt them.
It might.
Yes.
We don't know, but it might.
It might.
There is an outside possibility. So, no, we can't approve this.
So that brings up the roadless rule, basically, is that's another job-killing regulation that strangles Alaska. We can't mine, we can't do timber, we can't do several other things that all require building a road just to make it all accessible to be able to get to the first place to be able to do it.
We have to be able to get on some of these. They send people up from the lower 48, these liberal
Groups.
brain dead groups that they want to make Alaska into one huge park. And so this y'all don't do any drilling, y'all don't use the land, you don't use resources, none of this stuff. This is supposed to be one big park.
National park, yep.
And we need to tell them that before you can send anybody else up here, I want to know who they are, who they're paid for, and if they're out of state, they can't come up and try and get rosters of people that want to be able to get these things. We get flooded with these things all the time from people coming up from the lower 48. And we need to stop that nonsense. We need to say, if you're not a resident, you can't bring up and try and propose a new bill for us. We're getting this stuff. That's where these two bills that we've got right now that are just lunatic bills that are coming in on that we're going to be voting on. We've got
yes, on one and
on the oil, and then
Prop
on
1 and Prop 2.
On
Ranked choice voting.
Crazy. I mean, they're lunacy. And what it is from all these people, I'm up here from Arizona. Oh, I'm up here from Maine. I'm up,
I'm collecting signatures.
Well, where are you from? Well, I'm here at the present time. Well, is this where you call home? Well, no. Where is home? Well, it's sure.
Yep.
It's we've got to stop this. They're running us around ragged. They're also doing this to Dunleavy. A lot of those people that were coming up there, they were from the lower 48. I mean, what do they have to do with Alaska? We need to tell these people to take a flying hike and get the heck out of our state, and we can handle it just fine ourselves. If you vote and send the right representatives down there to Juneau.
The group that came and disrupted the Wasilla special sessions that was called out here, they were paid for people that was up here from the lower 48. Same people that were setting up the Camp Berkowitz camps and the different park strips down in Anchorage last year are the exact same. And if you look at the activists that gone to the Dan Sullivan thing where they came in with the caribou heart, if you look at the faces of who those people are, you'll find them in the videos that I had produced last year of both the park and the Wasilla special session.
Right?
Is the same people that went and disrupted the Dan Sullivan's thing here just the other day.
Good work.
And they're the same activists that we're seeing everywhere else, and they are paid for
reoccurring faces. Huh?
Reoccurring faces, and they try to claim that these are Alaskans standing up for Alaskans. Well, how come they only show up around election times or when there's very special interest
so we can control
bills
those
to be passing?
Control Alaskans.
Yes.
They're so stupid.
Look at how violent they are.
Oh, they're so violent. That's
we're gonna get hurt if we go to Wasilla. Well, who shows up at the far left activists? They're the ones that showed up. It wasn't the conservatives that were there.
Right.
It was the far left activists. The ones that were paid for by the Democrat, whether I don't care if they like me or not, the Democrat Party of Alaska.
Yeah, it is.
And the Rhino Republican Party of Alaska.
And they're heavy in there, honestly. I mean, the only reason why I'm Republican is because I'm conservative, but I'm not diehard Republican from the standpoint that it's just got to be Republican. No, we really need to have two parties. You need to have the Conservative Party, and you need to have your Socialist or Communist Party, because that's really the war that's going on right now. And
Yeah.
if you think that just by voting Republican that you're going to get somebody who really is conservative, then you need to do a whole lot more studying, because they play us for suckers. They really.
It's like calling
play.
calling an independent independent when the Supreme Court last year declared that the Independent Party is now the Democrat Party.
Wow, incredible.
You know, we're going to, or not last year, 2 years ago during the Walker campaign, because he was running as an independent. Oh, you can't use the Democrats' platform. You can't use their information. They took it to court. Supreme Court says the Democrats and the independents can utilize the Democrats' platform. There went the Independent Party of Alaska. They're now Democrats.
Yeah. It's crazy. But you've really got to start, just because somebody says they're conservative does not mean they're conservative. You got to see how they have voted, what they stand for, and it's your responsibility to see how they voted.
And when their back is against the wall, like Murkowski was with Feinstein with her hand like this, I'm sure everybody out there has seen that famous picture.
Yep.
Where do you stand when your back gets put against the wall like that?
Right.
Do you come back out fighting like a Badger would if they got backed in? Or do you sit there and meek and cower down and say, yes, sir, yes, ma'am, whatever you would like me to do, yes, yes.
And we've had a problem, Matt, here in Juneau, because we've had people that won't even be there for the vote to say no.
Yep.
I guarantee you, I have the backbone to be able to stand up, take the crap, and say no. And that's a problem we have.
Oh, they duck the vote because they don't want to have their committees stripped from them. They don't want to have their legislators stripped from them.
Yep.
But ultimately, what ended up happening to those people, they still had it happen.
Yep. They tried to play the game. It's that you can't play nice when it comes to liberals and Democrats. You know, all they understand is power. Until you get that through your head, you know, you're not understanding the ballgame. You're talking about going down there to Juneau, and this is the thing, Jesse Sumner and all these other yahoos that are over there promoting. Oh, we need to cooperate. We need to do that. Well, how did that work out for us, you know? It didn't. We've lost everything. We have no representation, you know? And we voted for an outrageous budget, and part of that budget was for you not to get a PFD. Now, how does that work out, this thing of let's go along and get along? It doesn't work.
It doesn't work.
So what you have to do, they understand power, and so what you've got to do is you got to put people down there who have a backbone, who will stand, and then with the other portion here, we can block some of the things with a power stroke and with a veto, and we can say, no, take the budget back and get something else, because this is unreasonable.
All right, my last three questions for you. I'm going to roll them all up into one big question.
Okay.
If voted in, what would be your priorities to accomplish, and what bills would you push to pass?
Well, as being a junior senator, I'm going to not have that much authority and that much power. I would be very cooperative to work with Senator Shower. He's a sharp cookie. You know, you don't get to be an F-22 pilot and be a dunce. So he has done a lot of research. I had real good answers to those. One of the main, we've got to start cutting the budget. We have to. There's no more options. The only option that they see, which is an easy one, is steal your PFD. So which bill would I go for? What would I push the most? They need to, SB 91, which they've changed over to, what is it, House Bill
49.
49. They got to, they really got to start, they got to do something here to really stop. I've talked with troopers that they don't even want to correct people. They've gotten better since they repealed some of Senate Bill 91. But they said they wouldn't even collect. I've had thousands of dollars stolen from me, thousands and thousands, by thieves. And they said the troopers wouldn't even take the criminals over there if you caught them, because they would already be out on the streets before they could even get their paperwork finished out. So they wouldn't even haul them in. That's how bad some of this poor legislation is.
That was under SB 91.
Under SB 91. Now they tried to correct it, some, but it still needs more.
So you got HB 49, which finally put teeth back into our law enforcement. kind of made a mute point of Berkowitz's, we've got to have more police officers because now they're actually able to keep them locked up, not rearresting the same people over and over again.
Right.
But there's one piece of the legislation that's missing, and that was what they were supposed to work on this past year.
You go ahead. I'm not following.
Recidivism.
Oh, recidivism. Yeah, it's a huge problem. I've had Christian groups that have approached me and saying, "Well, what about this and what about that?" Yeah, we need to find out the programs that are working. Not all the people are going to be interested in trying to make their life better. For those who are, it definitely needs to be there. Proposals have been put forth concerning Christian programs, and in fact, my pastor, he's very much active involved in that. They tend to be cutting it back at the present time, which I'm kind of like, why? Another portion is they need some laws need to be changed in relation to people that have gone through and spent prison time and felonies. Some of these need to be changed, like in 10 years, if they've been a stellar citizen without problems, then they should begin to have voting rights back, and they definitely should be able to have their gun rights if they have lived a good, clean life.
I'll agree with you on that one up to a point. I have a feeling that when it comes to like domestic violence, if it's a felony, but not a misdemeanor on the DV, but a felony DV, if you were able to receive a felony for domestic violence, I have a hard problem wanting to let a person have a gun again. If you are a person of domestic violence, on the other hand, that was a misdemeanor, you had an ex-wife that was pissed off at you and decided to get you in trouble, and the judge comes out afterwards and says, "I've even sentenced you to 20 hours of marital counseling." I don't see that being a reason to take away a person's gun rights in the end, once they've cleared themselves, done what they were supposed to do. The other one where I would draw the line is if you are a pedophile or somebody that is of a sexual crime, you should never be allowed to get your gun rights back. You've already proven you can't be a good member of society to take the lowest of lows to
prey on children.
Yes. You should never ever have your gun rights back. But
and I totally agree with that. And it depends upon the grievousness of the crime that's committed. The problem is they hand out felonies like candy.
They do.
And the problem that's got to begin to stop. And this was instituted way back underneath Clinton, and it's just wrong.
Marijuana would be a good example of that.
Yeah.
You got a felony because of marijuana. Marijuana is now legal now.
Yeah.
Guess what?
Yeah.
Give them their gosh damn guns back.
Exactly. I mean, this whole thing is wrong in how they have it. And also the portion is a lot of times people that come out of prison that they can't even get a job because they had a felon against them. And so then what's going to happen with that person who's got out of prison? How are they then supposed to support themselves or get back with their family or whatever else whenever they can't hold a job down because by the company rules you have a felon against you, so you can't be hired?
Yep.
That's a no-win situation. So what are they going to do? Immediately turn back to crime because there's more money there. I got to make a living some way, somehow.
I can make more money being a drug dealer than I can.
Oh yeah. In 1 week I can make more than I can in a month and a half. Busting my butt washing dishes.
Yeah.
Is that a career? Come on. It's really no. I do have some strong feelings about this thing concerning recidivism. I really do. It's wrong, and it's wrong because the laws that are there that restrict them from being able. How many jobs are that critical that they can't be able to hold them? I mean, yeah, if you're a pedophile where you preyed on children, or you're a mass murderer or whatever, something like this, yeah, okay, that's one thing, What's the seriousness of the crime? But like you're saying, there's so many of them that to be able to hold that over their head, maybe 10 years is a little short, maybe 15, but...
for me it all has to do with what is the crime.
Yep.
I mean, if you've gotten a felony in your life, then obviously you've done something really bad in most cases. If you've gotten a misdemeanor in your life, you shouldn't be held against you for your entire life. Misdemeanor was a slap on the hand.
Yep.
Unless you're a rich bastard that was able to plea it down in the courts by greasing some back in there.
That's the way it works, too.
Excuse my French, I'm sorry about that. Sometimes I get a little bit more passionate than I should. All right, we're going to give you the very final question of the night and the afternoon, and then I am completely done asking you questions after this one.
I'm done out of answers.
Do we have a revenue or a spending problem?
Let me think about this one. We have a huge, I don't know, maybe it's something in the air down there in Juneau, but when they get down there, maybe it's that they're used to having blank checks, and so they think that they have money that they can write. Because, well, I've got more checks here in my book, so yeah, we've got money. No. You don't have anything in the bank, you know. So,
but I got checks.
But I got checks, and my friends have this neat little organization that helps this and that, and it's really cute. And do you know how to say no? You know, we don't have any more money. You know, we have a huge spending problem. So
you can see why I saved that question for the end of the day.
Yeah, a little humor.
Well, thank you very much, Loy Thurman. This has been Santa, AKA Santa.
Yep, and it's going to be on the ballot. It's going to be on the ballot.
Running for Senate District D,
which is 7 1/8 of the House.
And it's been a pleasure getting to talk to you. I am glad that we got to capture a good portion of your conversation with the Edie Burke Show at the very beginning of this. That was a real pleasure to be able to be a part of there.
Very positive.
And as for all of you out there in Facebook land that are watching us currently right at the moment, don't forget to like and share this video. Facebook squeals on you if you don't share, so share. We are in crunch time. We've got less than 5 days away, and we are on August 18th. And for the primary voting, to get out and vote,
tell your friends.
Tell 5 of your friends. Bring them with you. Pack them in your vehicle. If you're worried about the coronavirus, make sure you hand each one of them gloves and a mask when they get into your vehicle so that you feel safe. Take them to the voting booth. Go and fill out that ballot. In this particular case, pick Santa.
That's right.
And make sure that you get out there and vote. We got less than a 20% turnout on the primaries. 20% of the vote this year is not going to cut it. There is a lot of jerry-rigging going on. There's a big reason why they are pushing the vote by mail.
Yep.
And the same reason why these same legislators in Alaska are calling it vote by mail instead of calling it voting by absentee ballot, which is what it really is.
Right.
And absentee ballot voting is completely different than voting by mail.
Totally.
There's checks and balances in place. It's still, in my opinion, a corrupt system that is easier to do voter fraud than voting by mail is.
It is.
But vote by mail is all these ballots going out to anybody and everybody that is registered. As we've seen on the national news, as we've seen Trump rally out there and say, cats and dogs are receiving ballots to go and fill out because they are registered to vote. That's how corrupt this is. We've got 20,000 conservative voters out there that found that their addresses were completely misprinted, and we don't know if that was on purpose or not. We've got mailboxes, post offices out there that you go and check their trash cans, and you can find thousands of ballots that are just thrown directly into the trash cans.
Yep.
We do not know where our elections are going, so in-person voting is very important to do. If you can go to shopping at cars or go to the bank or any of the above things, you can more than well easily go in and vote too.
Absolutely.
Early voting has already started. There's several precincts around the state that are open. I know out here in the valley, you've got the new fire station that was built out there on the highway is one of them that's open right now that you can go in and vote at. Wasilla Library, thank you. And just pull up the Division of Alaska Elections for the state of Alaska, and you can pull up your precinct in the early voting areas on top of when the actual primary vote happens on the 18th. So get out there, take 5 of your friends, vote.
5 by 5.
And the last part that I always got to say out there, this has turned into a full-time job. I love meeting the candidates. I love being able to go out there and catch like the protests that was going on in Anchorage earlier this week. But it takes a lot of money to be able to do that. This is not my real job. This is not how I earn an income, and I don't make a big living at what I do for a real job. So for me to be able to do this full time, I need your support. Please go to politidick.com. That's POLITADICK. That's POLITADICK. PFD-Budget.com. Click that donate button and donate $5, $10, $15, any amount. Every little bit helps. I keep spending the money to do several things. I'm improving our content, buying microphones, upgrading the cameras, paying for the gas to get me to and from.
That's expensive.
It does. It adds up after a while. I have spent more of my own personal money doing this over the last 3.5 years than I've received in donations by 10 to 100 times, just to give you guys an idea. I would love to do this full time, give up my work, but if you don't start donating, I can't do that. So again, one more time, go to politidick.com, POLITADICK.com. Click that donate button. Every penny counts. Really do appreciate it. And once again, Facebook squeals on you if you don't share, so share. Thank you, Alaska.